Well, hello, dear listener. It appears you've chosen to start at the very bottom of the hole. Older still are the mysterious archived episodes, now available on Patreon. The Belief Hole has evolved since the early days, and because our episodes are not chronological, we encourage you to start off with a more recent episode, rich with sonic landscape and storytelling. Then work your way back through the catalog. But for those not faint of heart, we invite you to enjoy a glimpse into the very beginning of the Belief Hole.
What do you guys think? Was that good? You guys think, was that okay? Was that good?
Coming up on this episode of Belief Hole.
Yeah, and I think there's both good and ill.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a battle happening right now that we don't fully understand.
Well, and there is a vampirism that's happening. Whether you believe in vampires or not, whether you believe in that stuff, there is an energetic vampirism that's happening all the time.
Right.
I am like the last millennial.
Okay, how does that work?
Starring Tom Cruise.
How does that work?
The last millennial.
It's another Phillip K film.
Dude, with Tom Cruise,
tie into what I'm talking about
That's
later.
even funnier. Tom Cruise, the last millennial.
They CG his face to be young again. That would be amazing.
Look at the news, dude. There is an energy suck happening.
You want to talk about what we know in science? We can't see X-rays. We can't see microwaves. There's dimensions around us we can't see. And yet our energy permeates dimensions, right? This is like a scientific
Absolutely.
idea. We eat food for energy. If we are giving off energy...
There's got to be something else eating it.
Well, what are the chances that there's something feeding off that energy? And maybe some feed off of a positive energy, some feed off of a dark.
And there's all these ethical questions about, like, is it ethical to bring back animals? You know, like, is it ethical to do that? Especially if you're going to have 500 half elephant, half mastodons grow and, like, have weird limbs coming out and then die because we're trying to, correct this technology.
Ethical? It's a blurry
line.
Cool? Absolutely.
But the coolest, neatest thing is that they have subarticular, warming fats.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Let's risk all of the ecosystem to see if we can bring back hairy elephants.
Not risk, it's going to help.
Well, that's their theory. What if they eat all of the other...
Don't eat animals.
How do they know that?
Because their teeth.
Chomp, chomp. Chomp, chomp.
And it builds up their reptilian power energy, and they get to eat the children.
Exactly. That's the whole point, right?
Let's get to that stuff.
Conspiracy.
Synchronicity. Sasquatch.
Donald Trump.
Alien races. Satanism in Hollywood. MK Ultra.
Pleiadians.
Mandela effect.
Close the door, Ed.
Jeremy! Close your door!
Snowflakes.
Inner Earth. Disagreements.
My lab.
JFK assassination.
Flat Earth.
Corey Feldman. Magicians are demons. Specters and spooks. Sleep paralysis. Muslim Islamicists. The gender spectrum. Yes. Alternative history. Shadow people. Quiet, I'm trying to say words with the mouth. Psilocybin. Sorcery. Poltergeist. Sulforaphane. Evolution, is it real?
Skull and Bone. I would never talk about it. That's old. Y2K.
Cover-ups. The Oklahoma City bombing. Vampire.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back.
Well, hello.
There it is.
Well, hello.
Welcome to episode 6. It's good to be back.
The long-anticipated episode 6, the sequel to episode 5.
I want to say this because I said it before, but at the end of the last episode, you said, we'll see you next week, which was definitely reaching a little bit for when we would have the next episode out. Because it takes about a week to record, to plan it out, and then a week to edit. And
okay, I'm sorry.
But I wanted to say...
I overpromised and underdelivered.
But I want to say we're going to try to schedule it out. Let's pro it up a little bit.
You call me a troll?
I said that's normal.
Oh, they said troll.
So we're going to try to do second week and fourth week of every month, get it released out there. This one's going to be just a little bit late because we had, the festivals in town.
Now that it's on the
carnivals
record.
in town, and we happen to be smack dab in the middle of it down here, so.
Smack dab in the heat in our non-centrally aired studio.
Yeah, it's miserable in here.
Very warm. We are
I actually feel
unbuttoned.
okay now, but.
Shirts unbuttoned.
I have rebuttoned, if you've noticed.
I've noticed. We missed your Bert Kreischer look you were rocking
No,
earlier.
I've vented. I have released the heat from my body, and I'm good to button.
Good to button.
Good to button.
Good to button. I think it's what astronauts say, like right before they launch.
Right
Good
before
to
they button up.
Houston, good to button.
We are good to button.
Anyway, welcome back, guys.
That's what Bill Clinton said to Monica after he was done.
We had a
that's a
reference.
decade
We had a
late.
reference in 1992.
We love those Clinton Monica jokes.
Dump it.
Dump it. Oh, Alex. Alex Jones.
How he's doing? How he's doing?
How he's doing?
How's he doing?
Ah, boy.
How he's doing? It sounds like a child.
Do you ever say thanks you to people? I do that a lot.
Thanks you.
On accident.
It sounds like what you do when you're
Thanks
nervous
you.
or like in a
Yeah.
like, thanks you.
I'm nervous a lot. Thanks you.
What was that thing you
nervous
told
a
me about,
lot.
Chris?
It's like when you go into the movie theater and they're like, enjoy your film. And you're like, you too. And you're
Yeah.
like, you know.
Awkward. I did that.
That's always the best one, right?
Yeah.
I did that
Like,
the other day.
Enjoy your dinner.
You too.
But you're the waitress.
I dropped off some food the other day because I deliver in the part-time, a very important profession. And when I delivered this
You were like
food
pizza?
item,
You deliver pizzas?
No, it's all
You work for
kinds of
Domino's?
stuff. All kinds of stuff. But when I delivered it, they said, drive safe. And I said, you too.
Yeah, I know.
As they
I've
drive
done
to
that.
their dinner table.
Most people
Well,
do
no,
that.
And then you went out and you went, stupid Jeremy,
I
stupid.
hit my head so many times. I got out of those, what is that, cat of nine tails and whipped myself.
Anything.
I whipped myself in the car.
Self-flatulated or?
I flatulated.
Is it not flatulate?
No, that's not right.
That's farting.
yes.
Flag. What's the term? When when you flagellate?
Flagellate?
Somebody call in, leave
Flagellate.
a speak pipe. By the way, we need more responses from listeners out there. If you have anything
We know we
you
have
want to
at
say,
least 60 listeners for
how we
every show
count it
now.
every
so
time.
it's at 100. We have at least 100 subscribers right now, so that's good.
Well, that may not be true, but
We can never really know. For anyone that listens to podcasts, they don't release. I don't know. It's a privacy issue. They can't tell you how many subscribers you actually
Just how many
have.
downloads you have on the day.
They show you downloads or over the month or whatever, but they can't show you subscribers for some
The
reason.
reason, and this is boring, probably people listening, but the reason why I think we're at least at 100 is because Castbox is at what, like 48, 50?
this is boring to me.
Yeah.
And Apple Core Media,
move
we have
along.
more downloads through Apple.
We don't need to talk about
God
statistics.
damn it! You let me finish my statement. Apple Core Media, we have way more downloads. It's a higher numbered distributor.
Okay.
So we have to have at least over 50 on that. So then we'd be over 100.
Yeah, over 100.
Not that it matters.
No.
I mean, it's nice to know people enjoy it.
Chris just is saying, please let us know you like the show.
I care less about comments about the show. I want people to call in and tell us their weird stories, creepy stories.
We want interaction.
You know.
Leave
Well,
us a
I wanna
voicemail on our
do-
website.
I
You can
wanna-
go to our website, beliefhole.com, and submit a story.
Before we get into this episode, I mean, because it relates to what we're talking about, I want people to call in and leave messages about, you have any like weird ghost experiences, shadow people experiences. Because next episode, I want to get into a little bit of sleep paralysis, dreams, nightmares, ghosts. I'm working in some outlines right now for that.
Switch it to
so-
Art Bell gear,
Yeah.
maybe. I love that man.
Little darkness.
The late, great Art Bell.
Yeah.
He was a hero.
Some more storytelling, I think, would be good for the next episode. So if you have any good stories you want to call in and leave, I know some of you do that are listening. I've talked to personally.
Specifically with night paralysis or
Shadow people, ghosts, poltergeists, succubi,
Demons.
incubi, any of that stuff.
Aliens.
if you've witnessed
I mean,
Chris
anything,
Angel
you know.
firsthand and it seemed like the devil, tell us about that.
Yeah.
We want to know.
If you ate some old Mexican and had a strange smelling
We'd
flashlight.
absolutely be.
You
we
ate
would,
an old Mexican?
We'd be thrilled if you'd call and let us know.
That's Ryan. He comes in
Ryan.
from time to time.
Hi, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, I'm just checking in. I'm the guy that does the audio over here.
You sound like a nasally John. That's weird.
That's strange. It does sound like John.
Oh. Well, I'm going to go.
All right, see you, Ryan.
Anyway, we're gonna get into in a few minutes here. We're gonna
Bullshit me.
There's Arnie.
There's Arnie.
What movie is that from?
we got some mean
turn off
Arnold
your text
Schwarzenegger
messaging,
clips.
Jeremy. This is a professional broadcast.
This
here.
is a professional broadcast.
I keep it little
This is
tweaky
also
tweak
take
sounds.
2 of a 45-minute
Hey.
show we already started.
God, you just leave that comment out of there. I was really hoping you wouldn't say anything about that.
Oh.
John feels inadequate.
I do not.
I didn't say it was his fault. I just said we.
I don't feel
previously
inadequate.
recorded.
I could give a shit less if you blame that on me. I mean, it was my fault. I don't even care.
That means you could give a shit.
I just wish that you wouldn't make us look so unprofessional.
It means you do give a shit. If you could give a shit less, it means you already gave at least one shit.
That's
Why are
true.
you trying to make us
Double
look
negative.
unprofessional?
There's Robot Sam.
All right, so to let people know what we're going to be talking about at this episode.
Hello.
Yeah, after we warm up a little bit.
No, I'm
tell
just saying-
some jokes.
I hope you leave enough room for my fist because I'm going to ram it into your stomach.
You didn't finish that. The end of that is so great. Do you even listen to the rest of that?
Oh, wait.
And break your goddamn spine.
All right, there's a reason we're playing Arnold clips.
Yeah, sorry, there is a reason.
Yeah, later we're going to be, it's gonna kind of tie into what I'm going to be talking about after I talk about the first thing I talk about, which is going to be something that comes before the second thing I talk about.
See, these cans take like 8 open sounds to get open. I did that earlier. It's like
How many open sounds?
It's like the machine
does it take
gun
to get to the center
to the bottom of the
Truly?
Truly can.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I want you, I don't know if I need you, but I gotta find out.
I gotta find out. That was weird, bad harmony.
Was that-
dissonant? Dissonant.
Almost worked.
I think it was okay.
Was that all right?
That was good.
Throw
No,
some
it's not.
reverb on there, some
Auto-tune.
pitch correction.
Justin Bieber.
We use that
auto-tune.
word purists here.
I gotta find out.
That's good.
You see those videos of those hip hop stars, the ones that all like rely on autotune, where they show like their takes without autotune. Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's ones where they do that.
Oh, that'd be so
Some of them
good.
aren't that crazy.
Oh, wait, like musical artists that do that? That play?
Yeah, it's like a really big thing now, and like I don't know what kind of genre of hip hop that would be. I'm not deep into the
Oh, were they
subculture.
just straight auto-tune?
That's like their.
It's like
there's
that
one guy
that's
it's like
singy
his
rap
sound.
stuff that is like, well, there's a lot of rappers that use that.
Right.
Sort
There
was
of, like,
the
it's
guy-
that lazy kind of like.
Yeah, in the background's the
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
Yep.
God, I can't sing that.
That's so,
It's like Humpty.
Did you just say windowsill on a haunted hill?
It's like Humpty.
Oh, I love Humpty. Do the Humpty.
My name is Humpty. Can I do the Dumpty?
I don't think those are the words, are they?
All you
do the
millennials out there,
Dumpty?
Google Humpty.
Yeah.
Oh, we're technically millennials.
I don't know where that.
On the cusp.
We're on the cusp.
I'm actually on the cusp. You guys are definitely.
What are you an
more
X?
than-
Are you an Xer, John?
I think it's 80.
Huh?
Are you an Xer? Generation X?
I think I'm a millennial.
Are you a Pepsi Xer? We're millennials.
I am like the last millennial.
Okay, how does that work?
Starring Tom Cruise.
How does that work? The last millennials. It's another Phillip K. Dick film.
Dude, with Tom
Which will tie into what
Cruise,
I'm talking about
That's
later.
even funnier. Tom Cruise, the last
millennial.
millennial.
they CG his face to be young again. That would be amazing.
You don't need to see G's face. He's still fucking 10 years old
He
or
could
whatever.
pass for like a 39-year-old.
It's all that Scientology
No,
magic.
No, not so much
anymore.
more. But he still looks
Yeah.
You wouldn't
darn
pass-
young.
Well,
He still does all of his own stunts. You see the trailer for Mission Impossible 4-9 or whatever it is?
4'9".
49.
High up there. Yeah, look, he's rocking it still.
I like Tom Cruise.
He and Tommy
Despite
Tom.
all the haters, I like Cruise.
Yeah, okay. I get girls never like Tom Cruise because I guess he eats placentas
Well,
or whatever.
Mom was like,
He
mom's
treated
like,
Katie
oh, I
poorly.
don't like him. I was like, why? And she's like, because of what he did to Katie.
Yeah, that's
I was
what
like,
I've had
first of all, you're on a
girlfriends that have
first
said
name
that.
basis with Katie Holmes. Number two, like, did you hear this on like Oprah or Tyra?
He's got his issues like everybody, but he's a damn good actor. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, that's the only reason you like
you
him.
look at the
You
body
don't
of
know
work.
anything about Tom Cruise.
no, but
Me
you look
personally?
well, when I say I
Yeah.
like Tom Cruise, I mean that as an actor.
actor.
You
Well,
could say
fair
the
enough,
same.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'm
he's a
just
great
saying,
cook.
He's a great actor.
He's a damn good cook.
He's a good father.
You could say the same thing about people who say I don't like him because of what he did, yada yada, because they're getting out of People magazine and what no one knows who he is.
Right.
You know, except the aliens that are at the top of Scientology.
We're gonna have to
or
rename
whatever.
this episode and Tom Cruise.
Well, Scientology is definitely a very bizarre. Like his ties to the Church of Scientology are a little bizarre.
He's like the new secondhand.
The way they
dude.
like protect him too. Did you ever see the Leah Remini interviews?
Leah Remini?
That's not her name.
Yeah, it is.
Not Ramini.
I'm pretty sure.
Leah Remy? Something like that.
Who are you talking about? I've
The
never heard of
girl
this
who
person.
was
Maybe
in that show with Kevin. What's his name?
Baconson?
Black shirt, heavy set.
It's Leah
funny
Remini.
guy. That's not how you pronounce it though. It's like Remy or something. pretty
Remini,
sure.
maybe.
Maybe.
Well, sorry.
Not important.
Kevin James. She was the King of Queens.
Why
She
do you
was
say
the wife.
black shirt. He wears a black shirt.
Like all on stage he used to before he lost all that weight.
Kevin James.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Anyway,
Anyway, Leah Remanano. Leah Romano.
Feel how soft my skin is.
that is my
was a great
favorite.
laugh,
Thank
dude.
you.
I know that was the one I was laughing earlier when I kept playing it. I kept laughing myself.
Yes, yeah,
I kept laughing myself. Yeah, because that clip was, that's the best clip.
Well,
That's from Junior, by the way.
They're all like really hardcore like clips of Arnold, and then he's
You know-
like, "Feel soft my skin."
You know
is."
what's
'Cause he was
funny
pregnant.
about the whole Scientology
Made his
thing?
skin glow.
Like I think it's ridiculous. Like if you know anything about like the religion, like actually what they claim to be like the truth of the universe and everything and the way the reality is. The funny thing is like we think it's ridiculous coming from Scientology, the religious
No,
standpoint.
I understand what,
But
that
it's-
part. That part, it's not that I totally disagree with that part.
Yeah.
It's the way that they collectively
I know,
organize
but
themselves, which makes it bizarre.
Right. What I was just going to say was it's interesting how it is so science fiction. Well, obviously, L. Ron Hubbard was like a science fiction writer. Right?
He was the most
I
prolific
don't think
science
some of the
fiction
things
writer.
that come from that doctrine, though, are all that far-fetched. I mean, they're very biblical
It's
in
all
a way.
Well, there's a
like,
lot of truth in there. I
it's
think
good
which is why it's
versus
compelling.
evil,
And it's a
like-
lot of self-responsibility, improving yourself.
It's the details that sound so crazy and fantastic. You know,
Well, yeah,
like
and
a
if
giant,
you believe it, literally.
like souls come from volcanoes and other planets and are trapped on Earth or whatever. But then you really do a lot. If you look into a lot of like ancient theologies and things like that, there are a lot of tie-ins that are. It's not that much of a stretch.
Maybe
It's
he
just different
got a lot,
terminology.
the writer probably got a lot
I'm
of.
sure, yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard? I'm sure he did.
He wasn't the most moral guy. I'm sure he just took pieces.
Well,
and
he
parts
created
and-
a religion, and so did his friend Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know?
Alistair.
L. Ron Hubbard was quoted as saying, like, if you want to make money, the best thing to do is start a religion. That was before he started the religion.
Well, I think it was about.
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that, so it must be true. But no, it is. It's in that documentary.
I've heard that, so it must. That should be that'd be a great shirt.
That, so it must be true.
Believeful. I've heard that, so it must be
true.
true.
Check your facts. I did. I remember it somewhere. But
I saw it on a YouTube video like 6 years ago. Give me a break.
every time I hear someone talk about, anytime I hear someone talk about that, I always want to say talk about JPL, Jet Propulsion's Laboratory.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Jack Parsons was the head of.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit on
We
another
talked
episode.
on one of the episodes, but he was with L. Ron Hubbard, the creator of Scientology, and Aleister Crowley, trying to summon the old gods in the Nevada, Arizona deserts.
Yeah. So the guy headed NASA pretty much, right?
Well, he started Jet Propulsion's Laboratory. It's named after him, Jack Parsons, JPL, Jack Parsons Laboratory, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I don't know if they changed it to that or if it was the official name. Anyways,
And Aleister Crowley and L. Ron
That's a
Hubbard.
whole other
They're all
episode.
bros. They're all bros.
it's a whole other episode, but
How do we
look
get
into
to-
it, dude.
Scientology. That'd be a good one. to
Tom
talk
Cruise,
about.
because of Tom Cruise, because something else. Jeremy made a comment.
See how
that was
organized we are?
funny.
Oh, you
How
said.
did we get
Oh, yeah.
here?
What did you say about Tom Cruise? Oh, Tom Cruise, the millennial, the last
The
millennial.
Last Millennial, yeah. That would be a great film. I'd watch
Oh,
it.
the last millennial. That sounds.
We
so
do have
funny.
some Tom Cruise. Oh, we should have got some clips from him because we were going to be touching on some of those movies he was in, the Phillip K. Dick films.
Oh, did he? Which ones were?
Well, he was in
why are we-
Minority Report.
So why are we going to touch on Philip K. Dick? You didn't explain that.
Yeah. So eventually, we're going to be talking a little bit about people who have had dreams that have led to world-altering ideas and concepts, inventions, things like that. And I kind of got that idea because I started looking into that more because at the end of the last episode, we were talking about George Church, who believes since he was little that he was from the future. And
Who's
he
George
wants
Church?
to bring the future to the present. He's the guy, if you remember the last episode, we ended it, I was kind of bringing up the idea of cloning mammoths
Yes.
to repopulate the Siberian steppe. He's the guy spearheading that, and he's the head of the Human Genome Project. He's like the youngest scientist involved in that project. Since he was a young kid, he always believed that he was from the future. So all he's wanted to do is bring the future here
Right.
by recreating that world that he envisioned.
Wouldn't the future get here regardless of if he brought it or not?
Yeah, but
By the
can
nature
you
of
imagine if
time?
you? Yeah, I know. Can you imagine though if you had that thought that you were from the future and you had an idea of what that looked like, and so your quest was to, and you had the ability, the intellectual prowess to actually start molding that thing that you've envisioned.
Right.
Like how cool.
He doesn't believe he's actually from the future.
So I was looking into that
Because why wouldn't you invest in
well, that's
a certain stock? Or,
well, it's not like it's not that clear, I don't think, but he.
like his soul
So when
is from the
I was
future?
looking into it, it seemed less literal and more like when he was a young kid, he had no exposure to anything, and then one day his parents took him to like the last of the World's Fair, like the Jersey Shore, wherever that is. I forget exactly where it is.
It's in New Jersey.
When he went there, it was like the first like computers where the IBM had a thing there. Like there was an animatronic Abe Lincoln. There were all these futuristic type things, and when he went there, he had the sense that he was from a place that already had surpassed all this technology. And
Right.
since he had that, he calls it his neurosis. Since he developed that neurosis, he's always felt like he had to bring the future here. Anyway, so he's the guy spearheading that project to create mammoths using new technology called CRISPR, which unzips DNA and re-zips it up with synthesized DNA to basically create genes the way you want. So like all the ideas of like you want to create an animal that can glow in the dark or that has horns or whatever. Like that's where we are right now. We're
So what do you
at that level of technology.
You
So he
combine
wants-
it with other
Yes.
animals? Is that the idea?
Yeah,
Like-
you're hybridizing. And it's the idea for him, what he's trying to push is this de-extinction, where you take animals that are recently extinct.
You bring them back.
And you bring them back by hybridizing them with current living animals. You're not quite cloning. But
It's like in Jurassic Park when they use the frog DNA.
No, because, well, kind of. But it's not quite cloning your...
You're filling in the gaps.
Yeah, it is kind of like that, I guess, but...
Isn't it exactly like that?
Well, it's not really cloning because you're not taking... Okay, they took frog DNA and put it in like the damaged parts of the dinosaur DNA.
Dino DNA.
But what CRISPR does and what they're trying to do...
Every time you say that, I think of you.
CRISPR?
Well, because
the screen name was
I
Crispy.
like that nickname. We should go with that.
Crispy77.
Well, you're crispy, so
That's true. So CRISPR works. That's my updated nickname.
keep going.
So that's crisp. That's a crisp drink right there.
Feel how soft my skin is.
Anyway,
Still good.
if you want soft skin, you use CRISPR to genetically splice in that snake skin.
Is this a technology that's available to, like, could I go get a CRISPR?
No. I mean, it's not like a machine.
Don't
it's
be
a
silly.
process.
But didn't they talk about using it for, like, life elongating?
Well, yeah, they think they're saying that within the next 30 years, this technology is going to way surpass like computer technology, robotic technology, like
Who says that?
People in general. Like if you
People in general.
I mean, people
randomly
man on
walking
the
down the
street.
street.
Hey, you heard about CRISPR? Yeah, it's going to
People,
surpass internet technology.
people in medical fields and science fields where it involves genetic. I
believe you just sounded so.
I know. I'm sorry. Genetic. People are doing genetic studies. People who are genetic researchers,
Geneticists.
synthetic biologists. These people are saying that this technology is going to be vastly surpass the things that we think are going to be the big things in technology.
Right.
Like 3D
Because
printing?
but it will be 3D printing organs by
It's a tech
genetically
disruptor.
designing. You're going to have your spare parts in 30 years. It's going to change the world.
Yeah.
So hopefully we start, getting off planet and colonizing. It's possible. If we start making more people and no one's dying, Anyway, so end of the day, what I was saying about George Church was he's an interesting cat because he does believe that, he has this idea that he's from the future.
But that's an interesting concept, the idea
Yeah.
of people that like have actually brought us a lot of interesting ideas, technology, and they've gotten their ideas from external what would you call them? Like paranormal sources.
So that's kind of got me down a wormhole last night. And
A belief hole?
And today, it got me down a belief hole. But I started looking, John, I was kind of telling you about that a little bit. I was looking into people who were inspired by visions or dreams and how, something from potentially another realm, another world, another dimension. Like who knows what dreams are? We've talked about this before, but seem to come in and divine
ideas.
intervention, give somebody an idea that something they may be working on or something that may be completely disconnected from what they're working on, but shown something that changes the outcome of a war or creates a new technology that remaps human society. These things happened.
Well, it's towards the end of Nikolai Tesla's scientific credibility in his time, he was under the impression that he was communicating with extraterrestrials.
I thought it was a pigeon.
No, that was at the very end when he was dying.
That was at the very, very end.
He did love a pigeon very much, but but he believed.
Didn't he marry the pigeon?
Yeah, there was a brief ceremony, but it was a bird marriage. So
They
he
eloped.
Bird law.
He went with their
Bird law.
They had a bird priest.
I'm an expert in bird law.
But it would be awesome to do an episode on Nikola Tesla because his story's so.
Well, that's I
amazing.
was looking into these different individuals, and I realized each one of these people could be sort of an episode.
Right.
But it's funny I didn't even touch on Nikola Tesla because I figured people are kind of familiar with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the other interesting ones, like Albert Einstein, his theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, that came from a dream he had as a teenager.
Oh, is that why it's wrong?
He wasn't even an educated physicist. He was a patent clerk later, but when he was a teenager, he had a dream that he was walking in the there's a bit of contention there between the biographers that studied Einstein's life and his writings and everything. There's two dreams that are kind of debated that led to E equals mc squared. One was he was sledding down a hill in the Alps and exponentially getting faster and faster down the hill.
Scary.
Snow's flying. And at one point he looks up at the sky and he realized the stars look different. And he realized it's because his perspective and the speed at which he was traveling was the speed of light. And that's what inspired him to start writing this great theory called special theory of relativity, which makes theoretically time travel possible. That came from a dream.
It's an interesting theory.
Well, we'll touch on that
Emphasis
later,
on
Jeremy.
theory.
I know, Jeremy.
Flat Earth time. Flat Earth tie-in. We need a little
Flat Earth kicker?
audio teaser for when there's a Flat Earth tie-in.
You could play like an Arnold Schwarzenegger bullshit.
Stay tuned for Jeremy's Crazy Corner at the end of the episode. We'll be
Don't bullshit me.
So the other dream that he had was he's walking through these mountains in the Alps, and as he comes down and this field opens up, there's this farmer and there's a bunch of cattle, and they all have their heads in these electric fences. and there are these posts of electricity. And then he looks over the farm, and the farmer flips the switch, and all the cows jump back at once from his perspective. And he goes over to like start calling the guy an asshole, like, why did you electrocute those cows? But they get into a debate about what actually happened because the farmer sees these cows jumping up one at a time in sort of a wave pattern. And so Einstein woke up and was like, this is a physics problem. It's like, why did I see this all happen at once and this guy saw it individually? And this somehow led him to the theory of relativity.
That's weird because he observed it in a dream. Like, when he's trying to explain that idea, he's trying to explain something that happened in a dream.
Yeah.
And the answer would just be, well, it was a dream. You didn't actually see these cows jump back at once. Why would you need to try to, unless that's, if he was saying like this correlates with something that we see in reality, which he must have been. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so I think the most interesting, this is a topic we're on right now, and we're going to get to the Princess Diana, the crazy evil royal elites that we talked about in the last episode. That's going to come in later in this episode for those that don't know. But I think the Philip K. Dick connections are the most interesting with someone who, because he actually, did you ever seen that? I know you want to get into Philip K. Dick, and he actually stood up during a conference, or it was maybe like an early form of Comic-Con where he was talking to like a bunch of his fans. There's a video on this on YouTube. Look up Philip K. Dick and simulation theory. This was before, before simulation theory was like a hot button topic. I don't even know if it was discussed. Maybe in like scientific circles as a theory. But Philip K. Dick believed it. He believed that we were in a simulation, and he got up and started talking about it to all of like his fans, like saying like, I'm coming out with this. This is what I really think. None of this is real. And this is not like, you can tell by the audience, they were not expecting for him to go into this kind of like diatribe about what he thought about reality. But it's actually really interesting to look at.
He's a writer, isn't he?
Yeah, he wrote, Minority Report, A Scanner Darkly.
He's a sci-fi
Blade
writer.
Runner, which was called Do Androids Dream Electric Sleep? Sheep.
Yeah. Electric Sleep.
That's funny.
One of the most influential science fiction writers, for sure, ever.
Yeah. And he had like their philosophies based around his outlook on life and reality. And yeah, towards the end of his life, he started to believe that his ideas were coming from an ancient satellite that floats around Earth called Valis. And he wrote a book about it.
He sounds very much like Ron L. Hubbard.
Well, except he believed this. He
also wasn't trying to sell people.
Well, that's the only difference. But he does sort of sound like he developed his own sort of religious sort of.
He was also on
system.
a lot of amphetamines.
Yeah.
A lot.
That will change your perception of a lot of things.
I had to put them in categories. I'd say both science fiction writers. One's a good guy, one's a bad guy. One was a genuine, sincere. He didn't try to create a religion. These were just what he believed based on his experiences, and wrote science fiction stories that were inspired by it. Whereas Ron Hubbard wanted to create a religion and used blackmail at the very heart of his religion by recording. What is it when you're coming clean or going clear? Like the name of the documentary.
Yeah. Great documentary.
You had to, it was a confessional, but they recorded all of them and they have the tapes. So if anyone wanted to break away, dude. Like John Travolta.
Travolta can't get out.
Or Cruise,
I think Cruise is totally bought in though.
Well, you'd have to. Because what's the alternative?
What's the alternative? Like, I mean, if they have like your dirtiest, darkest secrets, like
I made love to a cat and then I cut its head off.
It seems like
it's on come out.
Some level, it could be sort of like an Illuminati type thing where they have.
Yeah, they have recorded footage of you doing or audio of you admitting to something, and then they use that to keep you in the circle.
Mm-hmm. That's dark, dude.
Isn't it?
It's such a.
Let's promise to never do that. Let's promise to never do that to each other.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I recorded your. Well, I guess we do it every day. Unbelievable.
What's scary is though, it's the technology of the world. I feel like I think one of my biggest fears about technology long term is the ability to have everything on anyone, and then if anyone gets too far out of hand or gets too powerful as far as changing things on a deeper level, it's like, well, they have everything you've ever searched, every recorded phone call you've ever, like, I mean, look at, just for an example, like the Hollywood Access tape with Donald Trump, which it didn't take him down because he's, for some reason doesn't get touched.
People expect that from him anyway.
But for the average person, like, I mean, if you downloaded everything that we've ever done on our brains and put it on, like, how many things would each person have as far as just deplorable things like that?
Yeah.
But every person would have that's really dark things that they have that they've looked at or talked about or said out loud.
Right. But I think that's the thing too, is like if it was that transparent where everybody had that transparency, there wouldn't be such an issue with it, because everybody realized that everybody's the same.
Yeah, but that's the thing is when it's all held by like certain institutions.
I agree. Yeah.
And everyone knows it, but if you have a tape of it, look, I mean, they play it like they threaten it to play it.
That's hypocrisy in politics. It's like, someone says something shitty about whoever, and it's like you're like, well, I can't go vote for that person because they're a human.
Right.
It's
exactly.
like they're all they all have secrets. I mean, granted, some people do some really fucked up shit and maybe that will sway your vote. But then there are other things where it's like, yeah, okay, first of all, I think infidelity is probably one of the worst things you can do to somebody. But
besides torture or murder.
Yeah, but just because somebody, like there are
kidnapping,
issues involved with that. And just because somebody did that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have my vote for an election. Like it would
doesn't
make me
necessarily
think
mean they
differently.
wouldn't govern well.
Right. I mean, look at JFK. I still think, I know he had his womanizing.
Or Martin Luther King, for that matter.
Or Martin Luther King. We know he had his mistresses. He's a good dude. Did a lot of great shit.
Well, once people become really powerful, especially men, they tend to have lots of interest from the opposite sex, even when women get really powerful.
Well, it's like with our podcast, man. It's like I'm batting them away every day. It's intense.
It's hard. It's hard, especially after that new poster we just made.
That's true.
We made a poster
It's gonna be
to live inside of our own studio. No one will see.
Someday.
Someday. The girl at the printer saw it.
It'll be on the website. Chris made a neat little picture of us.
Yeah, you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, check it out.
listeners.
Belieful.com.
It was actually a real photo
And while you're
taken.
there, go ahead and leave us a little message about a creepy story or
just tell us how much you like us.
or don't like us.
Or
You know,
don't
no
like us.
problem.
Or
If our Jeff Goldblum laugh has, if it offended you or creeps you out.
What if we get a bunch
Last
of
episode.
hate messages?
we haven't gotten anything yet. I'm a little surprised that no one's been like, you guys are fucking...
Yeah, you would expect there to be some, like the few
lickers.
I wouldn't
the
expect
few
it yet.
emails we got have been positive.
Well, if you think about it,
you always
who's
think
going
that
to take the time? If they don't like the show, they're going to pass.
Well,
You know,
no,
they're
that's
gonna-
the thing.
You were expecting like mean messages?
I mean, not really, but it's going to be a thing that happens. At
at some
the show
point.
goes
But
on.
I imagine that we'll get more like positives before we
Yeah.
start getting the bad ones.
Yeah.
I always just, but I could also see it happening the other way just because you think about like reviews on like restaurants. You go to Yelp. You
It's
only
not
see
the same thing though.
I know, but I'm just
It's
saying like
having a personal like attack on someone like that.
that's true.
Like no one's eating at our restaurant.
They're eating our sonic whispers.
But if you'd like to, go to Belieful
You can just-
Burrito.
they're not paying for it. It's
Helping
free.
now.
If they really
Food
want
is
to go out
free.
of their way and say you guys are terrible, then
You ripped
They're
off my
just
time.
dicks.
I can't get that back.
But we'll take the criticism and improve ourselves.
Feel how soft my skin is.
Is there another one?
Yeah, it's like the same clip.
time.
I just like that.
That's
one.
a good one.
It's so soft.
Are we?
Bring the toy back to the carpet.
Bring the toy back to the
So
carpet.
before we get to Philip K. Dick, if you don't mind, I'm just going to touch on a couple other people that might surprise you that their invention came from a dream. It's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, can we finish the Mastodon story?
We
though?
finished it.
Oh, it's already over.
I mean, what did you want to hear? I mean, I wasn't
I
going to
thought
get
that-
into all the.
I thought there was
stuff.
more to it than that.
Well, I think the point is the idea of how much of what we experience in our life is given to us through new technologies, new ideas are coming from important, powerful people, and they're claiming to get their ideas or inspirations from either a dream or
Or a vision.
another dimension or entities
I don't
beyond our
know
realm.
how we switched from that. That was my
The Mastodon
confusing
guy,
point.
the guy who was spearheading that.
Yeah, I said what's interesting about
technology.
George Church is that he thinks he's from the future, and I said that made me.
See, I thought you were going to get way more in because I think in our pre-recorded last one you talked more about the Mastodon.
I did, and that's why I said like I was touching on it, but jumping off, using that as a jump off point because it made me
Okay,
start.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
So what I thought was interesting about the Mastodon was the fact that it's
No,
not.
we could go back to that. There
'cause
are
we were
more
talking
things to say about it.
We were talking about cloning of the mastodons, right? Like the idea of, because coming off of our last episode, we were talking about the idea of cloning, right?
Right.
Because of Donald Marshall and all his amazing insight that's probably 100% true. We got onto the mastodons because they want to clone. Thank you, Arnold.
Yeah.
They want to clone mastodons in
Siberian
Siberia.
steppe. Well, he
In the
does specifically. I think it's mostly this guy who's
Right.
spearheading the Genome Project.
For environmental reasons, but in reality, it seems more like just because he wants to do it. Because it would be
the-
cool.
The environmental argument is that it would help keep that area cool because these giant creatures that lived there pretty recently, like in the past, forget how many years, 10,000 years ago or less. Yeah, so that's why he claimed like wanting to do this de-extinction thing was to kind of restabilize environments where we've lost species.
Because the animals have an impact on the ecosystem.
Yeah, so mastodons, for example, they trample down grasses that reflect a lot of light, that raise temperatures in that area, that melt the permafrost, that keeps that area, which used to be a very frozen place, from thawing. You know, so like, I mean, we can debate like whether or not that's good or bad.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting. So no matter what you believe about global warming and all this stuff, they want to create mastodons for that purpose.
Basically to keep that area cold.
Right, because that's the theory is that if they are
the more you listen to George Church talk, the more you realize that he's kind of like a kid who's like a really smart kid who learned how to do the synthetic biology to create these things because he just thinks it's cool.
Right.
You know,
which is cool.
Which I kind of like that about him. Like whether or not, and there's all these ethical questions about like, is it ethical to bring back animals? You know, like, is it ethical to do that? Like, especially if you're going to have 500 half elephant, half mastodons grow and like have weird limbs coming out and then die because we're trying to correct this technology.
Ethical, it's blurry.
Yeah.
Cool? Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
definitely on the boundaries of like morality, I feel like.
So like the scientific community is arguing
Especially for one person to just take on, like, I'm going to do this. Like,
well, he has an organization. It's not just him, but he's the guy in charge.
Spearheading it.
Yeah, he's the one he's the visionary behind it. But that's the debate in the scientific community is like,
does he love America?
I would hope so. I mean, come on.
Is his skin soft?
Skin is very soft.
So,
but that's the debate in the scientific community right now. There's a lot of people saying like, is it ethical to do this? If it's are we doing this for the ecosystem, for other animals, for these species to retain this kind of ecology, or are we doing it because it's neat?
Right,
because it's fucking cool. Because it's Michael Crichton's the shit. You know, is that why we're doing it? Like that's the question.
Jurassic Park.
But as you were saying,
if we're going to do it, let's just bring back the T-Rex. Like,
skip
the mastodon.
We don't need to bring them back
Mastodons
because they're
friendly, though.
T-Rexes
Yeah,
are.
but if you're going to make 10,000 mastodons, like...
But we don't need to bring back...
Are you saying you wouldn't want to go and see fucking woolly mammoths that are like, 10
gigantic.
feet tall?
10 feet tall?
Yeah. Or
bigger than that.
That's
Maybe they're taller now.
exciting.
Because
Let's find out how big were mastodons.
No, but if you want to bring back the T-Rex, you don't have to because they're still here. Have you
True.
Have you heard of the miniature T-Rexes out in your old neck of the woods with your crazy paranormal drive-through? No.
In Austin.
Oh,
Arizona, Nevada, those areas. The cryptid four corners, which is I think it's a term coined by J.C. Johnson, the paranormal or the cryptozoological researcher guy. But there are all these crazy stories. If you want to look him up, J.C. Johnson, he has some crazy stories, and they're very compelling just because the way he tells them, like firsthand accounts of these things, like banshees in the woods and just crazy stuff. But one of them was
New Mexico too.
Yeah, New Mexico. Yeah,
that's where all the crazy
other dimensions,
there's like vortexes,
thunderbirds.
And
yeah,
but I've heard stories about that.
Well, mini T-Rexes is like a thing there, which is interesting, and the North American hyena, which supposedly died out, centuries ago or however long ago, 1,000 years. I don't even know, but they used to be a thing, and people report seeing them all the time. I guess out there. They purport to.
Well, I guess they weren't that. I guess they were just like 10 feet tall. I mean, how is that much bigger than an elephant? I guess it's
not
bigger
even
than an
as
elephant,
big as
but
an
they're
elephant.
woolly.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a small elephant.
I don't know.
Yeah, yay, hairy elephants.
That's true.
But the coolest, neatest thing is that they have subarticular, warming fats.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Let's risk all of the ecosystem to see if we can bring back hairy elephants.
Not risk, it's going to help.
Well, that's their theory. What if they eat all of the other...
They don't eat animals.
How do they know that?
Because their teeth.
Chomp, chomp. Chomp, chomp.
Chomp, chomp. Noam Chomsky.
Okay.
Take a bite out of democracy.
What? Maya the Bee. See, that's what we talked about earlier. I've only heard of Maya the Bee through other people.
I'm pretty sure, I'll have
It's
to
the
double check this,
Mandela
but I'm
effect
pretty
for me.
sure
I
that's...
can't believe you've never heard that song.
I've never seen
It was a
or heard
cartoon,
of Maya the Bee.
and I'm pretty
Right
sure
around
it was
Gummy Bears.
it was the only movie that Starbucks made.
Really?
Starbucks started a film company and a record label, and then they drastically went under in stocks because their coffee started to suck.
Jurassically?
Jurassically went under.
That's fascinating.
But
But
if you had that roar still.
but that's so weird because, I mean, I guess it's not that weird, but it's just weird to me because I hear people talk about Maya the Bee because at my age, apparently that's what everybody watched when they were kids. You were my twin.
We
and
watched
we
it
sat in the same
together and watched it at daycare.
Okay, but I have zero memory
but
of
you
that.
used to get taken into that room with that man.
Oh, with the probe.
Maybe you blocked it out.
I
of
do
other
remember
stuff going on.
blackouts. Might have been.
Do you remember getting abducted?
Maybe Maya the Bee was my MK Ultra trigger, and I would just go into like, ooh, strawberries. Hey, dude. God, that was a good show.
Oops.
Okay, we're not distractible.
Yeah, that was kind of the... Do you have any other questions about the Mastodon stuff before we move on?
This afternoon it'll be cold, wet and windy across most of Scotland.
Well, that's a great segue. That was Prince Charles, right?
That was
reading the weather.
Prince
Are we
Charles.
segueing? I didn't even get into the really interesting
No,
dreamers.
we're not segueing. That's a teaser.
I'll do it real
There's
quick.
more?
Would you give that a title? Because we try to explain it, it just sounds
I gave it a title
clumsy.
on my pages file.
I'm not like...
What is the title of
The title that I wrote was Inventors Who Went to Sleep and Changed the World. It's pretty snazzy, right?
Okay, but I don't know
I mean,
what that
you
means.
might as well have a show about life after death experiences. Like, it's about as vanilla as that.
How is this sounds of vanilla?
It's pretty vanilla.
Can I tell you about David Parkinson and we'll move on?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
I think he's
But
interesting.
can you hold that thought for a second?
Yeah, I have
Can we
to
take a
pee.
break?
Oh, yeah, we haven't done a break yet. All right.
ready?
Cue the music, Joe.
Chauvinists and sexists.
Why did it stop?
Chauvinists and sexists and misogynists and chauvinists.
Brought to you by Placeboing.
Misogynists and chauvinists and sexists and misogynists and chauvinists and sexists and misogynists and chauvinists and sexists, misogynists, chauvinists and sexists and misogynists.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
We back?
We're back.
Thank God.
break.
I hope you missed us.
Break was for
That's a long break.
Okay, go
Are
ahead.
you ready, John? I mean, you've been anticipating this the rest of
I'm
this
so
segment.
excited. I can barely contain myself right now.
Okay, this one is interesting, and I think this. When I was looking into George Church, I maybe think about this guy specifically because I heard about this on another. It was a podcast or an article I was reading at one
George
point.
Church, the Mastodon.
But it took some research to dig up all these different people. This guy, David Parkinson, worked for Bell Laboratories during World War II, but just as like a phone
Is he
technician.
related to the disease?
Bell?
Bell laboratory disease?
No, Parkinson.
Yeah, it's he dreamt that he had a twitch, and he woke up with a twitch that didn't stop. That sounds like a Dr. Seuss rhyme. Hey, that's sad.
Michael J. Fox says, I'll take that.
Oh, man.
Michael.
Oh.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
I know, I love that man.
Okay, back to the story. Sorry.
Go
ahead, Chris.
Okay. So David Parkinson, he worked for Bell Communications, had a dream. He found himself in a ditch with the Allied forces, and they were shooting German warplanes with anti-aircraft artillery. And according to Parkinson, this is what happened next. Quote, after 3 or 4 shots, one of the men in the crew smiled at me and beckoned me to come closer to the gun. When I drew near, he pointed to the exposed end of the left trunnion. Mounted there was the control potentiometer of my level recorder. There was no mistaking it, it was the identical item. And he realized that the thing that he was working on for a telephone that allowed the telephone to trigger automatically certain things, allowed him to take this device to the Allied forces during World War II, hook it up to the anti-aircraft gun so it could automatically target planes in the sky and shoot only the ammo necessary to take these guns down.
What?
This all came from a dream. He didn't work in artillery. He didn't work with the military, but he had a dream while working at the telephone. But the device he was creating would work perfectly with this other technology that he had no reference for. So it was like some outside divine thing coming in, and that changed the course of the war. Because of that,
It doesn't necessarily have to be divine.
not like from God. I just mean like in some it's seemingly some
Divine implies that it's sort of like a higher presence.
or
like
other
a loving.
or otherworldly. Divine.
Could also be
like the idea of like God in the machine isn't necessarily God. It just means a third party outside of the story that comes
I'm
in.
talking about the word divine specifically, but
Yeah, like divine intervention. Yeah.
Right.
you
God
usually
in-
associate a positive experience with
But
that.
in literary terms, that means an outside presence. It doesn't necessarily mean God. It means like a
it doesn't have
third,
to be God.
just some other force that knows more than we do.
It could also be, though, the workings of the subconscious, right? The sleeping mind, solving problems that you may not
Or
have.
tapping into the
Yes.
universal field of knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
The Akashic records.
The Akashic records, totally. Like that. And that's kind of what I was trying to get to with these stories, which is you might find a little more interesting. Like it's not just dreams. It's
Doubt it.
It's that there's some fuck you and your dick.
Boring. Fuck you.
Okay. So, but because of this, 3,000 of these inventions went into production and ended up increasing the targeting accuracy by 10 times. He was able to boost the defenses against the Luftwaffe 10 times because of this dream he had. It's drastically changing the course of the war for the Allies to win. I guess in 1 week, in August of 1944, the M9s were credited with destroying 89 of the 91 V-1 rockets launched. So what is that like? Over 90% hits that destroyed these rockets that the Nazis were shooting.
Those were von Braun's rockets, right?
Yeah, we can get into that. the head of our NASA program. But it's interesting, like because of this guy's dream, and he had no connection with anything to do with artillery. But he had a dream about the telephone invention being put on an anti-aircraft weapon, and then it won the war pretty much.
What's creepy about that dream is that the man at the gun smiled at him.
Looked at him, smiled and
said, "Come on,
here,
come hither."
Isn't that interesting, John?
Look at this thing that you can do with your. That's when it sounds like it's.
That's what I thought was cool about that story, and that was his quote, that the guy actually beckoned to him, like, "Come here, look at this."
Right, like you're in your dream state.
That's when he realized.
Walk over to me in your dreamscape.
Yeah.
And this one I want to show you. Yeah, we've all had weird experiences in dreams where it feels like there is a reality to it, and that is definitely sounds like one of those experiences where someone says, "Come over here. I have this device in this section of the landscape of your dream. You have to walk to me to look at it. I'm going to smile, wink at you, and say, 'Come hither.' Show it to you, and then you're going to wake up, and then you're going to use that to change the course of history." That's pretty crazy.
John, do you think dreams have any sort of reality to them, or are they just like imaginations?
I think they do.
Have you ever had dreams where you feel like it was a real place?
I think dreams
with real
are
people?
very complicated. I think that they involve the multiverse and the interverse, and they can be a reflection of what's going on directly in your life and help sort of guide you through things. And they can also be, influenced by other external forces that we don't fully understand. I think they're a very complicated form of intellectual
processing and potentially communication from something else.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you think about it, it's your most vulnerable when you're sleeping. I mean, you're very
That's when the demons get
highly suggestible.
Well, and with the current science that we know, and there's a really good, I forget the guy's name, but I've heard him on a couple podcasts, but young guy who's like a scientist who specializes in neuroscience and sleep, specifically in dreams, and how important dreams are to sleep. Not just getting a deep sleep, but to actually dream is necessary for health.
Yeah, I think you go insane if you don't dream
or die.
Well, I know people that don't dream, that have never had a dream,
or
never
remember it. Don't dream.
That's true. That's true.
There's a difference there.
But see, that's the interesting to me about these things that I was looking up. Not so much the ones where it could be broken down to like, well, he was working on something, he worked out a problem in his subconscious, because you're really thinking as much as you are in your subconscious as you are when you're awake. It's no longer the idea that dreams are some neurofiring. We've gotten past that in science. We don't think they're just random neurofirings that create images and thoughts and sounds. We now know that it's your thinking.
Mind.
Yeah, you're unconsciously thinking. Like that's what's going on.
You have two minds, right, essentially.
Yeah.
The conscious and the unconscious.
Sort of reminds me of like your brain going through like a washing machine or something. Like it's a way to like...
What way?
Well, it's like sort of a way to like process out the daily, monthly sort of like things that are going on in your life.
Or things that are troubling
you.
Without
fear of like, I mean, because dreams don't have like the limitations, like the physical limitations. They can be very bizarre and like lead in ways that physical reality can't, express those ways. So it's sort of like a cleansing to me. Like it's a psychological cleansing, I think, that happens when you sleep.
Well, and that's, I think, a lot of scientists' theories on why it's necessary to dream. And I think this is kind of the duller way to look at it, but I think is true for a lot of the dreaming is you're working out problems that you can't figure out in your waking life.
Exactly.
And your subconscious mind works out
mental
while you're
blocks.
Which I totally think is absolutely true. I think there are situations in dreams that are more than that, where they're not just you're working something out.
I don't think any of us really know the full extent of what that. All we know is we're unconscious when they're happening.
Yeah.
And seem to be very open at the same time. If you believe in any sort of other phenomenon outside of our physical reality that has the ability to influence us, it would seem like the perfect time to be able to do it.
Yeah, like
besides psychedelics.
I've had dreams where, and I don't know if I want to get into this today, but I've had dreams where like I dreamt about specific events or specific people that I'd never met, and then the next day, it's always the next day, and where I'll run into these people or these events will occur, or specific things I'll see that are abnormal. And I think a lot of people experience this.
Right.
But I think those are expressions, those are ideas of the dreaming world that are more than just the working out of the everyday, like the premonition type dreams.
I'm talking your run of the mill type dreams. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think there's a lot of room for other phenomena to be a part of, like when you see a loved one or something that has died and it's just so profoundly real.
Right.
You know, and it's like it's beyond this level of reality. It's hyper real.
Yeah,
hyper real is a good way to say it.
Where you feel just as real, like their presence is actually there. It's more like a vision and less like a dream. It's like an actual experience,
or like more than an experience. Like it's more real than this.
Right, which is what they
reality.
say about a lot of after-death experiences. Like it's more real than
along the
And
same
psychedelics,
lines.
where everything has more color, more sense.
Yeah, and to me, it seems like all that stuff could be all tied together. Anything that
Yeah, I
breaks
would think
down
so.
the brain as a limiter. You know, if the brain is a limiter and not
It's
something
like
that
taking
creates
the filters out.
Exactly.
We only see through a window dimly or
Darkly.
Darkly? Is that the...
Yeah.
So what was the other... You said there's something... Someone took LSD.
I'll go through some quick ones. Yeah, it was Carrie Mullins, who won the Nobel Prize for inventing a unique way to copy DNA. And really helped doctors diagnose diseases because of how fast they were able to copy DNAs and test. But he did it from LSD. And then they asked him, like, could you have done this without LSD? And his answer was basically no way.
What does that
He's
mean?
like, he saw the structures of
I
the
think
DNA.
the internet was highly inspired by
Google, the co-founder of Google, he came up with referencing and collecting links to different websites in a dream he had.
Especially when you take a highly brilliant person, like an incredibly high IQ person, and you give them psychedelics. I think that's when sort of magic.
Psychedelics.
All bets are off.
You give someone like us, like we're gonna have some
I'll saw
amazing
shapes.
experiences and maybe come up with some great ideas as far as
podcasts,
great
episodes.
podcast episodes. But if you have a mind, like a scientific mind, and the ability to think really abstractly, like
or to
Steve Jobs, and
recognize things you see in that space that other people might not recognize, like the structure of...
that's what I mean. You have to have like a different kind of brain. But if you,
But maybe not. Maybe it would take you to the next level. You know about the stoned ape theory, right?
No, I get that, but that's not quite the same thing we're talking about.
Well, yeah, it's exactly the same because it's like you're saying, like if you have the right kind of scientific
That's
mind.
over evolution, though, right? Like that's like.
Well, they were saying that taking the mushrooms put them on the next level.
Yeah, but that's not immediate. It's like it's a
immediate.
slow process as far
Immediate. It's like there's another.
as the stoned ape is talking about how
They took mushrooms and all of a sudden they were able to use tools and things like that.
it was
quickly.
not instantaneous.
No, but the transition, like there, because it ties in with there's an idea that there are animals. Some bird from a flock will eat a certain poison thing and trip, and then come back, and they've witnessed this like in real time, and will teach the other birds how to fix a problem, whether it's like eating a certain plant to cure a disease or creating some sort of way of nesting or whatever. But it's after one of the birds basically becomes a shaman
I get
and eats
that.
something, and then all of a sudden they just had the same brain as everybody else.
They just have a
but then-
vision of how to do something that none of the
right,
other
and
birds
then
have seen.
change the. But I know what you're saying too, where it's like if you already have that brain.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be able to solve highly complex math problems just because we take mushrooms.
Right.
Or whatever.
But if you're in
know.
that field already and you take
if
mushrooms,
you already have a highly tuned brain for that sort of thing, like you're going to be able to think of things that people that haven't gone through that training are going to be
Well,
able
that's
to
the
think
whole
of.
idea behind Terrence McKenna's the psychonaut idea, right? His whole mission for taking psychotropic drugs was to bring back ideas, like an astronaut.
Yeah, he
bring
thought
back
of himself
ideas,
as sort of an explorer.
Right. And that was the idea, is like you can be shown things that if you can bring back to this reality and actually inculcate into our...
Inculcate?
Is that the right word? Inculcate?
Never heard of that word before.
You never heard of that word?
Inculcate?
Yeah.
But you can bring it back and incorporate it
I like it, it's
into
very
our
melodic.
reality.
No, it works, I think, in that
I
context.
think it does. It was definitely a reach for
Inculcate.
me.
Does that mean
I
like,
reached out and I was like, is that word?
Does
gonna
that mean integrate?
Integrate.
Integrate?
Yeah, I think it's...
Inculcate.
Well, inculcate.
to
It's
fold
not
in?
that far away from
I feel like
that.
it's
Never
I feel
heard
like
that
it's a
word
baking
before.
term.
I
Like
know
you
a
could
lot of
fold it
words.
into ingredients and like you
Should
can
I look it up?
inculcate the pie with
Inculcate. You guys must be
cherries.
listening to the same podcast to hear that word.
I've heard that
Is that
a
a
long
Ben Shapiro word?
No,
or-
it was a long time ago I heard
No.
that word.
Yeah, I've heard of that word.
It's
David
not
Icke?
It's not Jordan
Instill
Peterson's
an attitude.
pillar.
Is it
Hillary.
David Icke?
No, this was
Instill an attitude, idea, or habit by persistent instruction.
yeah.
Teach someone an attitude, idea, or habit by persistent instruction.
Inculcate. So the persistence is kind of a key there.
Okay, well, we learned a new word today.
Inculcate.
Well, let me wrap this up because I know we want to
Let
get to
me
your stuff.
inculcate my terminology in your brainstem.
Let me inculcate this podcast with these ideas.
Listeners, let us inculcate you.
I'll, the rest of these, I'm just going to wrap up real fast so we can get into your stuff before we,
Before
Wrap
we lose
it up.
consciousness.
Yeah, so real quick. So
Just playing, bro.
Just playing, bro.
Fuck yeah. Oh, those Ghostbusters. I
That's
got really
Spectre
excited.
Gadget?
What was that?
Is that Spectre Gadget?
Yes, it is.
That's one of the best theme
Go,
songs
go,
ever
Gadget.
written. That is one of the best theme songs
Penny
ever
was pretty
written.
hot.
She was like 12, dude.
Well, I was 12 when I thought she was hot.
She's
so that's
cartoon
okay.
12, so I guess that's not
Penny.
a problem.
That's immortal.
She was a little Natalie Portman.
That's
blonde.
a weird connection.
Think of
Was she?
pigtails.
Does she look like Natalie Portman?
It just reminded me of when Natalie Portman was little and she played in that movie she was like an assassin's
Oh
daughter.
yeah. It was what was
That's a
that
great
called?
movie.
It's I hope we never part. Now get it right or pay the price.
Zeke the plumber. Brings
He
back
was
so many good
terrifying.
child memories. Anyway, okay. I'll go through these real quick.
Okay.
Last few here. People who dreamt up.
multiples.
Last yes,
Cool. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Okay.
Let's go.
Dmitri.
Cool. Run them down.
Dmitri Mendeleev. He came with the periodic table of elements from a dream. Like they knew about a good chunk of the elements, but they didn't know how they worked together. Couldn't link them. So this is one of those examples of someone who's trying to figure something out, and somehow it comes to him through some intuition. But so he's spent weeks moving these different cards around, couldn't figure out, went to bed, had a dream where they all linked perfectly together, woke up, put it together. They tested it, and I'm not a scientist. I'm not exactly sure how that worked, but because of the way he organized the elements, they were able to predict new elements that were not yet discovered. But it was because of that dream.
Interesting. On that point, Benjamin Franklin, this is one of my favorite anecdotes. Benjamin Franklin used to he'd fall asleep in his favorite chair, and he'd hold a rock.
I think that was Edison, because I wanted it to be Franklin, but I think it was
Let
Edison.
me finish before you start jumping in.
He'd fall asleep, the rock would drop, wake him up.
Wow, I just said hold on.
Okay, let's move along
wasn't
here,
Franklin.
guys.
Dude, why wouldn't you just let me finish the story?
Sorry.
Just forget it. I'll just cut it out. That was like my favorite anecdote. So Benjamin Franklin, I'm pretty sure we can look it up.
Okay.
Benjamin Franklin would sit in his favorite chair, or whoever this thought leader was, and he would fall asleep with a
dump it.
rock in his hand, so that when he fell asleep, it would drop into a bucket, and the sound would wake him up, and whatever idea was coming into his head at that moment,
Write it down. Right?
he'd write it down, because the idea was that when your brain finally lets loose in that moment between sleep and dreaming is when you have the best
the
ideas, or you
magic
can solve
happens.
problems. And so that's what he
Yeah.
did. He created a practice for it, which was
That's how I feel when I'm hanging upside down on my yoga trapeze.
I bet.
I'm serious. There's that
in
weird
between area.
in between.
That's where you have the
Between
out-of-body
the trance
experiences. Which we need to get into next episode.
What trapeze?
Sure, yeah. You can do that. We can talk about it.
Talk about your
My
yoga
guys are
trapeze.
missing out. You don't even know.
Your yoga trapeze.
All right, so that was Dmitri Mendeleev. Move
Yeah,
on.
you're missing out on
I thought it was ironic because Descartes.
beautiful things.
You know Descartes, right?
I don't know him
Scientist,
personally.
philosopher, but he's the
Descartes, okay?
Descartes. He was the
Descartes.
guy. Well, this I thought was ironic was he came up with the scientific method, right? Which is number one, never accept anything as true until all reasons for doubt can be ruled out. Number two,
Unless they show you a picture of the globe Earth. Continue.
divide problems into as many parts as possible necessary to provide. Anyways,
Right, the scientific method.
but it's to me it's ironic because he came up with the scientific method in a series of dreams. Wasn't something that he rationally worked out in his conscious waking state.
With a scientific method.
It was dreams came to him, and then these different, very diagnostic rules came out through a very non-diagnostic scenario of being your unconscious.
So my question is, where did all this information come from? Did he write this, or did all these separate people talk? They must have talked about it extensively in their own.
Yeah. Oh, about that they dreamt about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This all comes from their own admission. Like, it
Where
came
did
to me.
Where did this information come from specifically? Did you get it from a site
different sites, different. Like, I had to do some deep digging because there were certain ones that I heard about, and like the Einstein one, which I mentioned, but I don't know if you heard any of that. You were totally glazed when I was going to the Einstein stuff.
I
but,
heard some of it.
But like that one was different. Blogs had different recountings of the dream because different biographers believe that it was a different dream that led him to E = MC squared, theory of relativity. But there are two that are debated. But yeah, so I had to go through different websites, different blogs but you can look it up.
Did you get most of your information?
And there's a bunch of people I'm not mentioning here because it's too detailed, too scientific. I can't get into. But
Did you get most of it from yournewsstory.com?
I've never
Or your
heard of that.
Newswire? Is that the
I've
website?
never heard of
It
that.
is. Every time I feel
Some of it was from crack.com. Some of it was from
this website. I just want to mention it because you're talking about sources. Your Newswire, I think it is .com. Your
fake
Newswire.com.
news?
It's like I was looking up for the Royals. I was looking at information. It was like Lady Gaga says Prince Charles shape shifted in front of her, and it's like her admission. And for some
Bullshit.
reason, your Newswire.com has these stories that no one else has about the most insane,
Yeah, it sounds like the
fascinating
Inquirer.
things that could be true if you follow this kind of
Martian
line of stuff
baby.
we look
Right.
into. But it's just the evidence is
Nebraskan
too
woman
good.
has Martian baby.
Yeah, and it just pisses me
Government
off.
admits.
I watched a video where it was like a guy doing like a live YouTube chat where he has followers, so he's like reading this news story about like Lady Gaga coming out saying that Prince Charles shapeshifted in front of her, and he's reading the article. And he's a guy with like followers that apparently looks into this conspiracy stuff, but he's He's just reading it like it's fact. Like he's like, this is fascinating.
Well, yeah, a lot of people
out.
do that. That's the problem.
I know. It's just the turd in the punch bowl thing, you know? It's a lot of misinformation.
All right,
out
don't
there.
throw the baby out with the bathwater,
No.
as I always say. I
Don't
made that
throw
up.
Alex out with the best.
With the tangy tangerine.
All right, I'm down to the very end.
I don't even know.
I'm down to the very end here.
There's another one, dude. It's almost 8 o'clock. He's frustrated.
It's okay, Chris. We're going to be here. We're going to do it.
This is so
I feel like
frustrating.
coming up with this episode of Leaf Hole. I'm almost done. Just let me finish my thought.
Just let me do my thing.
And then we'll get into the world and it's all going to be great.
Okay,
We'll wrap
I'm just going to list. Mary Shelley, Frankenstein.
up. No, that was in a dream.
Yep. Robert Louis Stevenson, author who wrote what?
Jonathan Siegel. Is
The
that not
Strange
right?
Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh.
Mr. Hyde. He wrote 6,400 pages in 6 days, which is, I did the math on this. It's, what is it? A page a minute for 6 days because of the dream he had after an opium.
Wait. 24
recovering
hours
from
straight?
surgery. He was on opium, woke up, had a dream.
He wrote 6 pages a minute.
A page a minute for 6 days.
Was he awake like 24 hours a day? He didn't sleep? Yeah. That seems impossible.
I know.
I feel like those facts could be twisted.
Yeah.
But yes, interesting. Continue.
It's all true. The last one was Philip K. Dick. To tie it back into what the fuck with your Arnold Schwarzenegger sound effects. Philip K. Dick. Who
Feel
was
how
the
soft my skin is.
Not that sound effect.
Did you give John one from?
I got many. He just
So
plays
which
that
One,
one.
though. How am I supposed to know?
Well,
Which
you'd
be
one
a
am I
fan
s-
of science fiction?
It's the one that's the
Who is
stomach
your
punch.
daddy and what does he do?
Definitely not that one.
That's kindergarten cop.
You didn't give me any
I did.
time. No.
I
Which
did.
ones?
The punching through your stomach.
Is that the only
And
one?
breaking your
Party
spine.
pooper.
That's definitely. How many kindergarten fucking cop
You
clips?
gave me a lot of kindergarten cop.
At least 3 of them are from Total Recall or Running Man.
Bullshit.
Well,
Okay, so
wait.
Philip K. Dick wrote what we know as Blade Runner, Do Androids Dream Electric Sleep, Minority Report, The Running Man, Total Recall, Scanner Darkly, just to name a few.
You wrote them in his dreams?
He wrote them, but he thought he was inspired through an outside force like dreams. He thought he was inspired by some sort of divine...
a satellite.
A satellite. Well, that was one of his thoughts. He thought there was an ancient satellite, which another episode we should get into, the Dark Knight satellite. Because it would line up with Philip's K. Dick
I'm
theory.
surprised you want to do another one after this show.
I'll just put in a mannequin of John who just does this.
Just nods.
And goes,
He's like that little that
He's
bird
not like,
thing in Dark
what
Man.
time is it? I got to do other stuff.
We came,
Really helpful.
saw?
Really helpful.
he died. We came,
John, I'm going to read
Okay.
this last thing, and I'm not going to make any more comments. I'm just going to read something, and that's the end of my segment.
Okay.
Okay? And when I do, Jeremy probably didn't send you any, but I think maybe we should put some Blade Runner music behind this at some point.
We can't take the actual music.
No.
But whatever.
Okay.
We can make a fake Blade Runner. Okay.
I'll make it.
This
Yes, you will.
I will. Does it sound anything like this?
What is that? Oh, that's the Warrior. How come you can play that?
Yeah,
you can't play Blade Runner.
This is the Crystal Light Aerobics Championship from 1980.
It's also an 80s song.
It sounds like
I don't
we
think it's on the same
the
caliber
Warriors.
as Blade Runner.
It's an 80s song. Blade Runner is just a soundtrack.
I'm not worried about those people collecting copyright.
John's ready for a fight.
Well, this guy's dead, so.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'm just going to read this section. This is about Philip. You know, maybe I'll just like I'll mention it now, and then I'll just drop it in later. Maybe.
Dude, finish it up.
Okay, there was a guy, Kyle Arnold, who went into the psychology of Philip K. Dick, and he writes this about Philip K. Dick.
In February of 1974, Philip K. Dick was home recovering from dental surgery when he said he was suddenly touched by the divine. The doorbell rang, and when Dick opened the door, he was stunned to see what he described as a, quote, girl with black hair and large eyes, very lovely and intense. She was there to deliver a new batch of medications from the pharmacy. But after the door shut, Dick was blinded by a flash of pink light, and a series of visions ensued. First came images of abstract paintings, followed by philosophical ideas, and then sophisticated engineering blueprints. Dick believed the pink light was a spiritual force which had unlocked his consciousness, granting him access to esoteric knowledge. Some of this information, he claimed, was provided by three-eyed extraterrestrial time travelers who entered his bedroom through a portal of pink light. Dick knew that what he called his, quote, divine madness would come across as mental illness. He admits to grappling with paranoia, which was likely the result of speed. Dick used amphetamines to maintain his productivity, publishing 34 novels during his lifetime. Friends recall that his refrigerator was stuffed with bottles of amphetamine pills jammed next to pre-made milkshakes. He called them his, quote, happiness pills and his nightmare pills. When his addiction went into high gear, so did the paranoia. While walking in the country, Dick had a vision of a, quote, vast visage of perfect evil, spanning the sky. It had empty slots for eyes, it was metal and cruel, and worst of all, it was God. Later, Dick felt guided by helpful spirits. Following their advice, he took better care of his health and made clever business decisions. In one instance, a voice urged him to seek medical care for his infant son, which saved his life. Dick's judgment improved. He felt more alive. In a sense, his divine madness drove him saner. It didn't last. Eventually, the divine spirit left. In his despair, Dick attempted suicide. He overdosed on blood pressure medication and slit his wrists. Then he climbed into his car and turned the engine on, with the garage door closed. He hoped that if the overdose and slit wrist didn't do him in, the carbon monoxide would. The suicide failed. Dick vomited up the medication, his wrist coagulated, and the engine stalled. While Dick never settled on a definitive explanation of what happened to him, he did explain why his divine madness was so captivating. Before the visions, he felt alienated for most of his life, an observer in a strange world. But in 1974, it seemed as if, quote, the world changed to accommodate me so that I was, as a result of this radical change, no longer a stranger here. It became my world, and my anxiety, which tormented me day and night, departed. All of a sudden, I fit in. For a short time, it would seem, Philip K. Dick had a place in the universe.
Well, he's on a lot of amphetamines, so it's hard to take anything he says seriously. Amphetamines will change your soul.
Especially the paranoia. Like, that's a lot of argument for, like, the shadow figures thing. A lot of people see shadow figures. You see in the corner of your eye. That happens with Adderall. It happens with cocaine. Happens
even modafinil. Or even if you're just up long hours because you are, whatever you're taking.
But who knows? Maybe you're just getting more into that world because you're sleep deprived.
You're seeing the shadow figures because you're up. Yeah. The smoke monster that I experienced that we'll save for the next episode. All right,
I'm going to take a break.
Yeah, let's take our final break.
Take a break?
Take a break.
And we'll be back.
Catch you on the flip.
I, in my stories and novels, often write about counterfeit worlds. At no time did I have a theoretical or conscious explanation for my preoccupation with these pluriform pseudo-worlds. But now I think I understand. You are free to believe me or to disbelieve, but please take my word on it that I am not joking. This is very serious, a matter of importance. It's a common theme in my writing that a dark-haired girl shows up at the door of the protagonist and tells him that his world is delusional, that there's something false about it. Well, this did finally happen to me. I even knew that her hair would be black. I had an actual complete sense of what she would look like and what she would say. She did appear. She was a total stranger, and she did inform me of this fact. Some of my fictional works were, in a literal sense, true. At that time, I had no idea what I was seeing. It resembled nothing that I had ever heard described. It resembled plasmic energy. It had colors. It moved fast. It collected and then dispersed. But what it was, what he was, I am not sure even now. I wrote out these dreams in novel after novel, story after story. I'm going to be very candid with you. I wrote based on fragmentary residual memories of such a horrid slave state world. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed. Déjà vu. Such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off. People claim to remember past lives. I claim to remember a different, very different present life. I know of no one who has ever made this claim before, but I rather suspect that my experience is not unique. What perhaps is unique is the fact that I am willing to talk about it. Talk about it.
We are the winners. Watch us glimmer like the sun for the champions.
And we're back.
Body and soul. We push ourselves to the
Maximum. Then the champions.
champions. We are the champions.
Can this be like the Gleeful theme song?
I wish.
I feel like anyone who owned rights to this dropped the rights.
I know, they were like, we don't want anything to do
we
with
don't want to be
this.
associated, so please take this.
So that was a workout video.
It was an
was a-
aerobics
Yeah, if
championship.
anyone wants to look it up, I highly, highly recommend it. If
Please
you want
look
to
it
have
up.
a good day, look up 1988 Crystal Light
championship?
bodybuilding or-
aerobic championships.
It is fantastic to watch.
It's a beautiful thing that God created for all of us, and you should enjoy it.
It's a full video. It's so good.
Oh, well, we're back from the break, and now we're finally done with the dreams, and everybody can wake up. So
Wake up.
to
It's the first of the month.
Get up, get up.
I don't even know
get
that
up.
song. I just know because
Yeah.
Chris sings all the time.
Well, my friend Jared used to drive me to school and he'd play it every day, and it helped me wake up.
Stupid Jared.
Help me wake up.
Jared's a stupid head.
He's a lovely man.
Just kidding. I love Jared.
Isn't he the one we quoted from the first episode as being one of our 3 listeners?
Yeah, he was the one we
At the
mentioned in the last
beginning.
episode when we were talking about fatty products.
Fatty
and
products.
Pudgy Bluefront.
That's right.
Tune in to the last
do
episode
we
if you
call-
want to hear how we were insulted as children.
What a great way to start an episode. What did I call you? Fatty products?
No.
Fat lard.
Fat lard.
Fat lard.
Anyway,
That's a great.
we're back.
We're back. And we wrapped up this episode has kind of been just touching back on the last episode.
This is part 2. If you've read the title of the episode, it's
Yeah.
part 2 of Donald Marshall.
No Donald Marshall in this
Donald
episode.
No, but this
it led
is-
into cloning. It
it
led into
spawned.
the royal family conspiracies.
Well, part of the problem when you get into all this conspiracy gobbledygook out on the interwebs is you have a lot of really good information, and then sometimes you have information that sounds insane or might be crazy, like the Donald Marshall stuff, but it's blended in with truth or things that
Right.
are
Who's getting text
iPhone's
messages?
going off. Put your phone on silent. Is that your phone?
It's not my phone.
Messenger.
No, I think it's your phone.
Yeah, it's not mine. Mine doesn't go ding.
Just put your phone on silent. You dildo bag.
Dildo baggins.
Dildo baggins.
Dildo
Someone's
baggins.
had to have used that already.
I'm
I've
sure.
heard that. That's been done.
It's been done and overdone.
So yeah, you said when you start to dig into these royal conspiracies, obviously there's layers of insanity, but there's some things that ring true, right? I think a lot of the David Icke stuff there are things in there that he makes a compelling case.
David Icke is the godfather of reptilian conspiracy of the elite, the Illuminati. And it's not just that he...
Just the world structure of what you would consider to be
Right.
the overarching control
paradigm.
mechanism.
Yeah. David Icke, I'm a big fan.
Me too.
Hashtag me too, David Icke. I think David Icke
dare
is, he's so prolific. Like you watch his lectures, they're 12 hours long.
And they're captivating. It's not like just rambling of an insane person. They're
Right.
captivating. They're well-spoken. They're
He was a reporter
well-researched.
before he became...
Well, he was a sports reporter and he was a soccer player
He was
before
a
that.
famous soccer player. And then he had his
Or a
downfall.
football player.
I think he actually did more than sports reporting, didn't he?
I'm pretty sure he ran for the Green Party in Parliament? He ran for some party,
How did we get on David Icke, though? Like, I think we're jumping the ship here a little bit. We haven't introduced who David Icke is or anything. And
Well, the ship is sinking, so we naturally jump.
let's just jump off the
This
boat.
episode is a sinking ship.
Yes.
We're
I
talking
hope-
about the conspiracy theories around the royals. Is what we're
David
getting into.
Icke
And that's
is
why
a-
I mentioned David Icke.
David Icke definitely, he's one of the most prolific conspiracy theorists. Researchers. Not there. I don't like that
He
word,
wrote a
but-
great book. He's written many books. One of the most popular books that he's written is called The Big Secret. And my awesome girlfriend Jess gave me this book, and which is so bizarre because I wanted to look at Princess Diana. I wanted to get more into the information.
Yeah.
And the murder, the sacrificial assassination of Princess Diana. I wanted to look more into that because I knew there was Allegedly. I knew there's some really compelling information, and the one book that keeps getting referenced is The Big Secret by David Icke, and I was like, man, I wish I had this book. I don't have time to get it before we do the next episode. And I looked at the cover, and I was like, I've seen this cover before. And then I realized it's in my house. My girlfriend...
You didn't know that?
No. My girlfriend had this book, and so I asked her, and she's like, yeah, you
And then you read it all.
I read a chapter. The chapter about, I mean, of course, it strings along.
It's all in here anyways. It's all in your brain.
Yeah, it's all echoing from things that I've looked at before, but the specifics, he digs deep into like the death of Princess Diana, and there's a lot of stuff that's come out since he's written the book.
He has done a lot of research into the royal family itself, right?
Yeah, and he supposedly has sources that have come to him to tell him corroborating stories about things that he's talked about before, like in The Big Secret. Like things have come out since then, information he's learned.
So just to be clear, right now we are going into the topic of Princess Diana's death, right?
Yes.
In regards to there possibly being a connection with certain royals orchestrating it?
Well, absolutely. So this is the thing. Like, we talk about...
Disclaimer, this is all hypothetical.
This is all...
We're not
like
making
most
any
things
claims.
we talk about.
This is all fact, peer-reviewed research into the royals. If you subscribe to Royal Scientific Magazine, this is all peer-reviewed research.
Conspiracy magazine, peer-reviewed journals.
So, yeah, Princess Diana, the reason I wanted to talk about her case with how she died is because it is like the red flag of royal connection to evil doing, right? Like, there are so many holes in it.
It's the 9/11.
It is. And I you watch, there's a really great documentary called Unlawful Killing, I believe is the name. And that is the verdict that was given to the cause of Princess Diana's death.
Unlawful killing.
It wasn't an accident. It was an unlawful killing. That's what the jury said. And the jury...
Oh, really?
The
So
jury
they didn't declare it because it wasn't
supposed to be an accident.
It's supposed to be...
It wasn't paparazzi got too close
right?
in the tunnel.
Right,
Oh,
paparazzi?
right, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong.
Really?
So this is what's amazing about this whole story is that so the jury read back unlawful killing due to the trailing vehicles or vehicles around...
Yeah,
around.
and then they said it was a paparazzi.
But this is the thing is that the paparazzi were all accounted for and...
Really?
And well, they were following them because they always followed Princess Diana and Prince Charles. At this point, Prince Charles and Princess Diana were separated, and it was just Princess Diana and her current love affair, Dodi Al-Fayed, and their driver.
Really? Were they
the bodyguard.
separated?
Or separated or divorced?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they were already like on the outs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
She had given talks about the royals and how she felt in that family.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know any of that. I thought she was still like married and...
Well, see, and this is the thing. We could look this up in a second, but she was not with Prince Charles. Was she divorced officially? Was she separated? But they were definitely on the outs. She was spending time with Dodi Al-Fayed, who was actually the son of a billionaire named Mohammed Al-Fayed, who owned a really famous...
Saudi oil company?
No, he owned a really famous retail store in London called... I can't remember the name. But this store, it would be like Sears and Roebucks, right?
Yeah,
But it's
like
Sears and Roebucks.
Right. I was just thinking
from 1980.
And they dropped, I think Roebucks left in like the 50s.
Yeah, that was so long
I'm
ago.
thinking of... no, it's because of it's like an established name.
Was it a department store?
It's a department store.
Okay.
Harrods. So Harrods department store.
Ooh, like the guy who sentenced Jesus.
Exactly. He's actually the ancestor. This is where no, that's not true. So
He washed his hands.
Harrods department store.
Coinky Dink? I think not.
Harrods department store. So
Harrods. That's so weird.
There are multiple conspiracy theories that come from this, and one of the major conspiracy theories was pushed by Mohammed Al-Fayed, the father of Dodi Al-Fayed, who died in the car with Princess Diana as her current lover.
Really? So the dad of the lover was saying that there was more behind this than a paparazzi.
Absolutely. And if you look into it, if you follow David Icke actually believes that Mohammed Al-Fayed is also like giving disinfo about this whole thing. But Mohammed Al-Fayed believes to this day that his son was murdered along with Princess Diana, the driver and their bodyguard, by the royal family, specifically Prince Philip, who was the husband of the Queen Mother. So
not Prince Charles.
Yeah, so the father-in-law.
Well, they're all in cahoots. They're all family, right?
Why? Because she was saying bad things.
Well, his
about
argument
the
is
crown.
there's multiple motives for this conspiracy. His motive is that essentially there's two mainstream conspiracy theories, mainstream motives for why they killed her. One is that she was having a child with Dodi Al-Fayed, would be the first Muslim white mix in the royal bloodline, and they couldn't have that. So it was a racist motive because they are racist. I mean, there's a lot of quotes of the royal family.
But you look at Meghan Markle right now, though.
Well, that's the change to the tides.
But she wouldn't have been in the royal bloodline because Princess Di married in.
But she would have become the queen. And it would have been a half.
The thought would have been they would have pretended that child was somehow.
Well, he would have been a half brother of Prince Harry.
Oh, okay.
And Prince
Charles
William?
or William. Yeah.
Prince William, Prince Harry would have been the half brother. It would have been half Muslim, so it would have polluted the bloodline or have the connection of that. So that was his argument, which I don't necessarily buy that's the reason. Another reason is she was spearheading a campaign to remove landmines from the world and then make it illegal to use landmines in the future.
Why wouldn't the royal family want that?
Because it goes back to the money.
Death to go back to go to.
Well, you could look at
demon worship,
sacrifice, right? But
God.
So,
God.
But the evidence going to this is the fact that she was very public and very visible, going to third world countries where landmines have maimed a lot of people, and she would go there to shed light on it, and she formed a movement to get this to end.
Right.
And her phone was being tapped. The NSA. The American National Security Agency had actually recorded something like 6,400 pages of her conversations during this time when she was trying to bring this because it's it would stop a lot of military sales, right?
Military industrial complex, that kind of thing?
Exactly.
Okay,
it would curb, sales or the production of landmines or whatever. That was a problem. But they released a recording of her to essentially show to ruin her reputation, because you have to understand that Princess Diana at this time, she was a goddess figure.
She had a lot of power as far as influence
people loved
in the
her.
world. Yeah,
she was like
the Barack Obama of
the royal family.
She had a lot of sway, is what I'm trying to say.
She had a lot of influence.
She was very popular,
and she had a good heart.
Yeah, with the common people.
And that's why she didn't get along with the monarchy, and they hated her, and she came out and said,
well, couldn't they have killed her just because she got away almost in a way? Like it was almost like
she was getting out of
leaving a mafia sort of situation.
Right. Well, because maybe she had certain information.
Oh, that's definitely possible.
If you follow David Icke's sources that have had personal accounts talking to Princess Diana, saying that she was involved. There's one specific story, which is the most outlandish story.
Good, that's what I want to hear. Give me the outlandish one.
Okay, so the most outlandish story is that before being married to Prince Charles, she was invited into a ceremony, very cloak and dagger, where, and this is the David Icke's close source, where they exposed themselves as like reptilians.
Lizards. Yes, lizard people.
I was waiting for that.
And basically saying like, you're a part of this now. You have to
become a lizard.
Toe the line, and your responsibility is a brood mare. And you hear this all over.
Brood mare.
To breed what hybrid lizard?
Well, because their family is so inbred, according to.
They need some external.
That they need fresh DNA.
So they don't
wither away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So weird. But it's not that strange. I mean, really, because, that inbreeding's been going on in royalty.
Well, obviously, the bloodline's important.
Millennia.
There's a reason why it's called the royal bloodline.
Right.
That's important. And if you actually trace back the royal bloodline.
You do got to spice it up with a little different diversity in the genes, or you're going to get,
You're going to get a lot of mutations.
Well, those kings with like the lame leg and the, twitchy eyes. Or like,
you get brain issues if you start inbreeding.
Well, King Tut, I guess, was like they inbred all the time in Egypt, and I guess supposedly King Tut, not supposedly, this is real, like he was a cripple, like he had a lame leg, he had weird shaped body parts.
Weird, man.
Because they were all so
bizarre.
Because they believed they were descended from the gods. Well, so they have to keep this godly line.
It's interesting that you mentioned King Tut, because you talk about the Merovingian bloodline, which supposedly reaches to Queen Elizabeth and the current monarchs of England. Mm-hmm. And this was originally a Franco-French bloodline.
Yeah.
One of their earliest connections is Ramses, the pharaoh.
Really?
Yeah. So it all goes back to the original royal bloodlines and before.
All keeping it in with the priests of secret priests. They had those secret orders in Egypt, and they brought them in.
Well, Freemasonry can trace its blood, or it's
what are they called? They're called like the Academy of
the Illuminati. Goes back to
ancient Egypt. They had their own sects and.
Right. And they claim connection to that. Mm-hmm. The Freemasons, the Bavarian Order of Illuminati, or whatever, all that stuff. But to get into the specific
secret keepers,
the specific evidence of, or even just like compelling circumstances of the murder, quote unquote, of Princess Diana. If we just want to talk about, we don't have to get into any of the paranormal, any of the supposed lizard people, but if you just look at the
fun stuff, though.
Well, we'll get there. But if you just want to look at just the facts on the ground, right?
Facts on the ground.
Facts on the ground. One of the interesting scenarios surrounding the death of Princess Diana.
Can I say one thing, though, real quick before we jump? Like, don't you think just the whole royal family, regardless of anything we're talking about, is just a bizarre tradition?
Absolutely.
Like,
That's what's so crazy. Yes.
Let me just say this real quick before we go on. Like, I have a little clip that I'm going to play. I'm not even going to play the whole thing. It's just I don't even know how to explain it. I'm gonna play the song real quick. This is just their national anthem, which is God Save the Queen.
Right.
And it's so grandiose. And I'll just play it real quickly. It's funny that it's actually...
Land of liberty
of the I see.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Land where
Okay, so we get it. So we get it.
Right,
so they took the... So wait,
regardless, that's not... I mean, but I was just...
That is weird, though.
That is very...
Did they take that... It's almost like if they took that after we had our national anthem... Because it seems
I don't
odd.
know if that's
true. But
true.
here's the thing. It seems... No, but think about it. It seems very odd that the American people... Or before they were American,
like an extension of...
It seems weird that they would break away from a monarchy to form their own republic with
and
freedom
use
of
the same melody,
freedom of religion, freedom of new government, populist government, and then they create a melody based off of... It's possible.
What I initially was going to say was, well, it would make sense
Can
to
I
me.
finish what I was originally talking about, though, just before we get into this?
Yeah.
The whole reason I wanted to play this track, when I watched it, like the Queen is sitting there in this ridiculous anthem of people praising her.
Right.
Like there's like a Star Wars scene with all the diplomats.
It's exactly what it was.
Like
it was
there's
Star
the Queen
Wars
from
scene,
some other
and
planet.
she's just sitting there all like smug and just like, it's like, what is this? It's like, and we live in a world that's so politically correct and how like power structures are not allowed to be held and like, you know, all this stuff.
Right.
And these people are the like most institutional power structure that could possibly exist. Like the most old institution that you can imagine. You're paying, like the people over there pay, ungodly amounts of tax dollars to these people that have no elections.
Right, for weddings and for to rebuild
and that's the difference to me because like I see like on the surface of it, I don't see a problem initially because the idea it's the tradition. That's the reason why people want to keep it around because it's a link to our past. Like it's a
link to your slavery.
Well, okay, that can be argued. But what I'm saying is like initially the regular Joe who watches it, who loves watching on TV, it's because it relates back to stories of princesses and kings in this time that's long gone.
Ridiculous.
Right, but what I'm saying
is
ridiculous. Okay, what I'm saying is though, you grow up with those. Like I love King Arthur, Camelot. Like when I was growing up, like it was this.
You like paying taxes to King Arthur?
I'm talking about two separate things here. What I'm saying is like on the surface of it, I think that's why people who don't think deeply.
Well, they love the tradition of it.
Right, exactly.
I know, I get that.
Right,
part.
so that's what I'm saying.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
it's the other side where
bizarre,
the other side where you have everybody's paying taxes to this family so they can put on these ornate weddings.
The wealth that they have could solve so much poverty in the world. It's like astronomical.
Yeah, how much wealth do they have? Because it is a lot, right?
It's not insane.
It's not just like you always hear like the royal family.
They could end poverty.
You always hear that like the queen is like a figurehead, sure, but how much money do they actually have? It's a shit ton of money, right?
Well,
it's like,
I think that the official number, and I need to look this up again, the official number that they talk about her as far as like liquid money is something like 500 million, but in reality it's
liquid money.
They own,
she can just spend, go to Vegas and spend 500 million.
They own the majority of the British coastline. They owe
property.
All of the land in Canada belongs to the British Crown. Everyone who lives in Canada is a leaseholder for the land
but they could never really cash that in.
Why
right?
couldn't they?
They
Because
have
of Parliament.
No,
First of all, no.
It doesn't matter if they can even cash it in. There's still other ways they can finance things just by owning them.
And first of all, they have the right to veto anything in Parliament.
Put a lien against Canada to rebuild your palace.
They have the right to veto anything in Parliament.
I want to remortgage my Canada. Sorry, go ahead.
They have the right to veto anything in Parliament. They have veto power. In Australia in the 70s, they had there was a prime minister that was doing something they didn't like, and they got rid of him. The Queen.
What? Just like kicked him out?
Yeah.
No democratic.
They have say so.
They have say so.
Well, it's you could say
it's like a legal term.
So.
Well, no, I declare say so to remove this.
so. No, but we're not interrupting you. It's just funny.
But you could say it's like it's a theoretical power. They give them these powers for tradition. But the fact is, they have these powers.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know about those powers. I just know them as like ceremony heads. You know, I didn't know.
Well, that's the thing. They are more than that.
I know that they're let in on things. I didn't know that they actually have.
The Canadian Prime Minister. What's his name, John? You know his name. Canadian Prime Minister.
Trudeau.
She gets a 1-week phone call or face-to-face meeting that is completely private with the Prime Minister of Canada every week,
where she says, "I'm putting a lien against."
Well, Justin Trudeau's
the point
worst,
is
first
that
of all.
Canada belongs to the Crown, just as Australia, I think New Zealand,
Right? That's why she's on all their money. The fleets of Canada are like the Royal Canadian fleets of the Queen.
But I always thought that was like just a historical precedent thing. Like they were, colonies.
This is part of my problem though too. Like
from the continent,
there is real power invested there, and my other problem with it is like the media, and the American media, that puts this up as like this. Let's focus on how beautiful this royal wedding is, how wonderful it is. But our country is a country that abandoned this idea of monarchy, right, for the idea of freedom.
Exactly.
Which we're very quickly getting rid of this idea of freedom as being a good thing, and our media focuses on this. Yeah, maybe fun, maybe tradition, but why are we so obsessed with it? Maybe because it's just celebrity, except for the fact that the taxpayers pay for the wedding.
Well, that's the thing.
Right?
That's the underbelly that no one talks about.
And also, media loves like celebrity.
Right.
They love worshiping people like in a way that's just
famous.
They love. It's about giving power away. It seems to me like when you can give up your sense of self and ideas to people that are bigger than you, and especially when they have sway, it's like let's build these people up.
Right.
I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
It's odd
I don't
too.
understand.
You want to talk about
how much of that is?
You want to talk about white privilege? Why don't we talk about royal privilege
or celebrity privilege?
Yeah, but I'm saying like you're
royal. Well, that's a better way to say it.
Like,
you're right. It's like white privilege on steroids.
You're not allowed to talk.
And it's white.
People in the parliament, when there was an interview in this movie, Unlawful Killing, there was a parliament member who came out, and I think it was a parliament member, I forget his specific station or whatever, but he recounted his oath that he had to take. And the oath that they gave him was, if any of your fellow parliament members show disloyalty to the Queen or talk negatively about the Queen, you have to report it. And he said, I'm not going to do that. Obviously, he's talking about it now, so he was not for that. So he said, I'm not going to do that. And they said, it doesn't matter if you say you're not going to do it. You were told the oath. And his description was like, they inject you with that responsibility.
Weird.
But it's just for fun. It's just for tourism, except it's still...
But it's still like behind the scenes oaths you have
and
to take.
if they can murder people. So this is another problem too. She's the head of MI6, MI5.
What? Really?
Well, yeah, she has full control.
Do you think she's briefed on any of that shit? Or you think she's just, like a figurehead? You think she's briefed on like the spy network?
Obviously, I tend to lean towards like the whistleblowers that have come out, the sources saying that you look at the death of Princess Diana, like I haven't even gotten into the evidence yet. But there are some very fishy things, as they would say, dodgy. Some very dodgy things.
We should jump into the evidence. That's kind of what I was
so
really
let's get into
in.
So at this time she's separated. She's no longer with Prince Charles, and I don't know offhand if it was a divorce or separation or what. But everyone knows that she is with the son of the billionaire.
Right, it's kind of public, right?
Yeah, Al Fayed. So she's with Dodi Al Fayed. They spent an 8-day vacation in Paris. And on the last day...
But she's just flaunting in front of the royal family, just asking for a...
It does seem weird, though. I mean, like, I think that's like a weird diss to the royal family, too, in a way. Like, leaving the royal family has got to be like, well...
Well, you have to... She was taken in at the age of 18 by Prince Charles. So this is a...
so she was like molded.
Well, this is
a child.
That's
but she was very independent. From the beginning,
adult.
she was very independent. There's an interview with her saying, like, she was friends with Prince Charles as a kid because I think it was her uncle, was the groom of the stool, which I mentioned to you before.
What the fuck? Explain
His
this,
responsibility was to wipe the butt of the royal family.
What are you talking about?
The groom of the stool.
This
is an actual
Princess
thing.
Diana's
This isn't real,
father,
though, right?
I think it was his uncle, her uncle or great uncle. I'm not sure. I can't remember which. But
is this really true?
This is a thing. Yes.
Sure.
No, I've checked this in multiple places.
So the groom of the stool, he was the.
It's not that crazy.
Royal
if you think about
asswiper.
It. Royal asswiper. He would comb through the stool to make sure with his hands. He would comb through to make sure that the stool is healthy, right? And supposedly they gave this up after Queen Victoria. I think
what
it
year was that?
I'm not sure.
1800s.
I'm not sure. It must have been her great uncle. I think uncle or great uncle. But anyway,
that's nutty.
But
though.
she was.
That's nutty.
That's how she. That's how she was connected to the family.
You're a baby at that point. Like you're a child lord.
Absolutely. Well, even to this day, even to this day, like Prince Charles. I know the Duke of Eddington, Prince Charles' father.
Dukey.
They have their clothes laid out, socks left and right on each shoe. Right, I don't know that they're dressed anymore, but they have everything laid out for them.
People are infants, like they don't know how to deal with their own lives.
They shouldn't be bothered with these mortal worries of being clothed.
It's unbelievable.
Picking
what
up
does that do
clothes?
to someone's psyche growing up in
absolutely.
that situation?
And how do you view the rest of humanity?
Oh, yeah, like you're definitely
that's a good
everyone's
point.
below you.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is nothing.
We're talking about the psyche.
Yeah, how do you have perspective?
That's the psyche. That's actually a really good point, Chris, because if you look at the quote of the Duke of Eddington, who was quoted, by the way, they started the World Wildlife Federation, which if you compare that to Agenda 21 and you look at anything into that, it's a hatred for people, essentially, and restricting the movement of people.
Yeah, reduction of population.
Right. Yeah, because what you say, because like the argument against that the argument for that would say it's to help
the planet,
keep the wildlife preservations in order. Is that the idea? But you're saying it's a removal of people, basically.
Well, and for evidence to that, this is the Duke of Edington, his quote, who's the father of Prince Charles, the husband of the Queen Mother.
One of the creepiest looking people I've ever seen in my life.
Dragon Man.
If I were reincarnated, I'll do this in the accent. If I were reincarnated, I would wish to be returned to Earth as a killer virus to lower human population levels.
What? That's a quote?
That's a quote from the Duke of Edington.
If I had to come back as anything, it's something that would kill a lot of people.
Well, that's the thing, because he's worried about overpopulation, and that's from his stance as a environmentalist.
Well, that's the thing. Like, but he knows
all
that
these
his
people are
family's protected.
Environmentalists.
Right.
Like, they hate humanity. They hate life.
You think he would be saying that if he thought that the virus would be killing his family? No, he's thinking of the lowers.
Yeah, exactly.
Common folk.
That's the thing. It's like anyone that's outside of
the properties and the Greenlands.
Right. Yes, save our space for our 500,000 people that populate.
Yeah, our real estate that we own over like all the coastline.
Well, it's funny,
of Britain.
like, and not to get off subject because I'm not going to do this, but going back to some of the stuff just for a second, but going back to some of the stuff I was looking into about like dreams, prophecies, visions of inventors and stuff like Pythagoras, pi. We learned about Pythagoras, fucking Isaac Newton with his laws of motion. Pythagoras started the first like secret society, like this is known, and they had a cult following him because he believed that the knowledge was not for the vulgar masses.
Yes,
and Newton,
we are the vulgar.
Right.
And Newton said that.
Well, Newton said it too. Newton was a big proponent of that idea. Newton was like head of some sort of royal seat that was kind of supposed to be ceremonial, but he took it seriously and believed that information, that's why he wrote everything very esoterically and encoded it, because he didn't believe that regular people should be able to read the laws.
He also died of mercury poison from alchemy.
He also, last thing I'm going to say about Isaac Newton, I did not know this, but he was with this position he was given the royal family, was in charge of the mint, to like redesign the mint, but he went as
the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, but he went as a commoner to find out who was scraping gold off of the coins, and then he would fight for those people to be hung and drawn and quartered so that their arms and legs would be ripped off. He was a vicious. Yeah, that's what
that guy.
He thought it was that's how big of a crime it was to steal a little bit of gold off of these poor people, stealing the gold off of these coins, that they should be drawn.
Satan incarnate.
Yeah, like you don't hear these things when you're growing up in school. This is like, you look this up. This is fact. You can Google
the guy that brings you gravity.
Sir Isaac Newton.
Sir Isaac Newton.
Wow.
He was also super into the occult.
No idea.
He was an alchemist.
No idea.
No idea. You're not taught this stuff. Same with Pythagoras. You're not taught that Pythagoras is the guy who invented the first secret society, and at least in
He gave you the lie.
Italy.
He gave you the lie of gravity.
The lie of gravity. There we go.
It's just buoyancy, guys.
Back to the
it's just buoyancy, guys.
Oh, the flat Earth comes back in. No, it's okay. I agree. I mean, like, you can.
Speaking of the esoteric, wasn't there something with Princess Di in the tunnel that had to do with a ceremonial sacrifice?
Absolutely. So that's
the juicy stuff.
Yes, that's the juicy David Icke stuff.
So
bring it in.
Okay, so she died. She died in a tunnel called the Pont d'Alma Tunnel in Paris. Okay. So, she didn't actually die there. That's where the accident was orchestrated,
but the sacrifice
if you will.
took place.
Right. There's so many interesting details.
This was on the vacation she was on with her lover in Paris?
Yeah, this was like the last day. Well, obviously, because she died. So it was the last day. But she, so they were leaving, and they're heading to a tunnel. Paparazzi supposedly were left well behind because they were, whatever motorcycles they were driving, this car was a much more powerful vehicle, should have been well ahead of them. And all of the paparazzis were accounted for that were on the street that night, and they hadn't gotten to the tunnel when the accident occurred, according to testimony. And there are witnesses that are on record. This reminds me a lot of like the 9/11 Commission or the what was the Warren Commission for JFK. Just these holes. So
even Robbie Kennedy assassination.
Right, but speaking specifically for commissions like that are reviewing the testimony, and there's a jury put out. So they get to the tunnel. There's a bright flash of light, supposedly, quote unquote, a paparazzi photography camera that caused the accident.
Right.
That's the alleged
story you hear.
Right.
What?
That's the story.
A bright flash of light that caused
from
the
a
accident.
camera.
Now,
like a Canon camera? Was it like
right. Well, shortly so
the brand Canon.
Earlier
exactly.
Before this happened, there was a proposal that I think by someone in MI6 or something, there was a proposal at high levels of the secret security or secret military establishment, whatever you want to call it. There was a proposal to take out a foreign leader or powerful figure using this high flash of light in a secured space.
Really?
Then this got taken away, like they weren't going to do it or whatever. And then not long after, I'm not sure how long after it was, this is how the accident is caused in the tunnel, Ponte Liamo tunnel. So that's one explanation for why, and testimony was taken at the time by an MI6 member who was saying this is what very well could have caused the accident.
Okay.
Witnesses describe seeing a Fiat Uno, a white vehicle trailing along the car, hitting the car. The car crashes into, so it's in a tunnel.
Like actually hitting it.
Right. And there's white paint on the car to show where an impact happened.
Really?
Right. No one has ever been found.
But this was all stuff that was put into evidence during the trial?
Right. Witness testimony, and then the paint on the car. So in the tunnel, there's barriers in between incoming and outgoing traffic of the tunnel. The car hits a barrier after the bright flash is seen, and a car hitting into the side of their vehicle.
Right. Okay.
This white car. So there are multiple problems in the story. One, let's start with the ambulance, right? So an ambulance, after a report is given, called into the emergency services, the ambulance arrives at 2:23 a.m. in the morning. There are multiple ambulances that get there. There's one ambulance that takes charge, one doctor, Dr. Martino, who takes charge of the situation. And for some reason, and this could be attributed to how Diana died, because she was conscious and alert upon ambulance arrival.
Really? So when the paramedics got there, she was aware?
She was aware, she was conscious.
Did she say, "It's the lizards"?
No, she did not. Although she did refer to them as lizards.
Really? Like in an interview or
She
something?
referred to them as inhuman, according to like her closest friend at the time.
Okay, sorry.
We'll get to that. So anyways, so the ambulance arrives. 37 minutes after the ambulance arrives, she's moved to the ambulance from the car. The back of the car had no damage where she was sitting. So she was sitting in the back right seat, I believe.
Okay.
Car accident happens. She's conscious and alert. They don't move her for almost 40 minutes to the ambulance.
Is that strange though?
I don't know.
To make sure they got to put the neck thing on her to make sure, because even if she's...
But for 40 minutes, if someone's dying, or she obviously eventually died,
right?
You don't move her to the ambulance for 40 minutes. That's a little strange, right?
Did they say what her condition was when they approached her? You said she was conscious and aware.
Conscious and alert. So you think you'd want to get her in the ambulance, check her vital signs, see what's going on, right? Anyways, 37 minutes, they finally move her to the ambulance out of a vehicle that has no damage to the back where she was sitting. Also, upon later report, her seatbelt, she was known to always wear her seatbelt when she rode in a vehicle. She wasn't that night. Why? Her seatbelt was defective.
Could be coincidence.
Strange. Could also be coincidence.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be coincidence. She took 37 minutes to move her to the vehicle. Also possibly coincidence. 81 minutes after the accident, almost an hour and a half after the accident, they begin heading to the hospital. Almost an hour and a half after the accident.
An hour and a half?
That's insane.
Yeah.
For a royal.
In a tunnel, no one's allowed in. There's multiple ambulances, but there's only one in charge, and they take almost 40 minutes to get her into the ambulance, and then it takes about an hour and a half, 81 minutes.
An extra hour and a half after they get her in the ambulance?
From the accident being reported.
So basically an hour to move from where she is in the ambulance to out of the...
Not to move, to begin going. So she had been moved 37 minutes in, and then another, whatever the difference is between 37 and 81 minutes, then they begin moving to the hospital.
Could that be because of traffic?
Where maybe they were just working on her there, right?
Well, she was conscious and alert. I don't know, everyone involved in the...
Investigation?
Yeah, the investigation afterwards, the commission or whatever, they had all said that this was major malpractice.
That they didn't get her out of there.
The fault of the doctor. They didn't get out of her. So 81 minutes, it took an hour and 43 minutes total since getting to the accident. They arrive at the accident, an hour and 43 minutes later, they arrive at the hospital, and she dies.
How far away was the hospital?
That's a great question. Well, it was 81 minutes before they started heading towards the hospital, and then they arrive an hour and 43 minutes at the hospital. And I wanted to do the math on Google Maps. So 81 minutes is what, an hour and
20 minutes?
23 minutes. So it took them about 20 minutes to get to the hospital. So not that far, but they said that it moved at snail's pace on open roads.
So she was only 20 minutes from the hospital.
Well, I think the argument is she was much closer, but they drove very slow. And by the time she got there, I don't think she was DOA, but she died.
So the implications would be like that these people would have to have stand down orders almost.
Absolutely. That is the argument, I would think. Beyond that, all of
NORAD standing down. Yeah,
we told them to stand down.
Right.
And then beyond that, we just want to make sure she died, is essentially the argument. And then none of the cameras in the tunnel were functioning. multiple cameras in the tunnel at the time.
Yeah,
We're always running 24 hours, not functioning that night.
It just sounds like it's just weird. I mean,
it's bizarre.
But it is
some
like,
of that you can check up to coincidence or like traffic or whatever. But like the camera thing is weird. Like none of the cameras worked.
How about this? This is interesting to me because we all hear about people who are suicided, right? After the fact. One guy thought to be involved. He was a royal photographer, so that means he worked on behalf of the royal family.
Yeah,
for
not
royal
paparazzi.
Right, not paparazzi, but he drove a white Fiat Uno.
Oh.
Which was witnessed running into the car, which caused it to...
Before the flash.
Or around the time of flash, I'm not exactly sure. Months later, after all this went down...
What, he killed himself?
He killed himself by shooting himself twice in the head.
In
a burned out car on...
twice in the head.
On royal property or parliament property.
How do you kill yourself by shooting yourself twice in the head?
Yeah, it was
do it quick.
It was like on a
was it semi-automatic?
It was like on a military range, some sort of firing range or something.
I mean, you don't have to tell me any more than that. I mean, tell me that he suicided himself by shooting himself twice in the head.
He was found doors locked, no keys on his person, burned to death, or burned his body burned.
Wait, so the car was burned?
Car was burned.
So he shot himself in the head
and then lit his
burned
car on fire, and then died.
That's ridiculous.
On government or
if that's true, if that's really the report.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. Anyways, this is crazy stuff.
But that's to me that's obvious. Like if that's really the report that he killed himself by shooting himself twice in the head and burning his car.
Right, and that's the guy who's supposedly involved.
That's obvious, just covering up. Right. At least that, for whatever reason. Or just completely...
It was blamed on the driver. Before any toxicology came out, the French papers reported that he was drunk as a pig, which I don't know if you guys know pigs. I've never seen them drink
all the time.
Right. Odd. But no toxicology came out. He's drunk as a pig. So all the media took it. Just like they took the paparazzi story and said it was paparazzi, they also said drunk driver.
Oh, they probably just smear his character through the mud like a pig.
But here's the thing. He may have been involved. So he received $350,000 of money, untraceable money in his bank accounts in the months prior to the accident. $350,000 as a driver, as a chauffeur. Huh. No one knows where it came from. A lot of people believe he was Secret Service intelligence.
So a lot of little pieces here and there that might point to a conspiracy. Some of it pretty dramatic.
Now, if you want to get into the esoteric side.
Yes, please. Let's get to the...
So the esoteric side. So she died in the Ponte Lealma.
Yeah.
I'm scrappling through my notes here. So
Can we take a short break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
I gotta pee real quick.
Too.
Do you think you'll ever be queen?
No, I don't. No.
Why do you think that?
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts. But I don't see myself being queen of this country. I don't think many people would want me to be queen. Actually, when I say many people, I mean the establishment that I'm married into, because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
Why do you think they've decided that?
Because I do things differently. Because I don't go by a rule book. Because I lead from the heart, not the head. And albeit that's got me into trouble in my work, I understand that. But someone's got to go out there and love people and show it.
And do you think that because of the way you behave, that's precluded you effectively from becoming queen?
Yes, not precluded me, I wouldn't say that. I just don't think I have as many supporters in that environment than I did.
You mean within the royal household?
Mm-hmm. They see me as a threat of some kind. And I'm here to do good.
We have reports from Paris that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
Often avoiding the spotlight, Princess Diana's eldest sister, Lady Sarah, agonizing over one fateful question.
She was religious in putting on her seatbelt. Why didn't she put it on that night? I'll never know.
Was it pure coincidence that Diana told many people she would be deliberately killed in a car crash?
In a letter written by Diana 10 months before her death, she wrote about a possible plot to kill her by tampering with the brakes of her car. She wrote, "This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury in order to make the path clear for Charles to marry."
The Windsors are an ancient reptile human bloodline, and I was told by a confidant of Diana that her nickname for the Windsors was the lizards or the reptiles, and she used to say, in all seriousness, they're not human.
Why did these CCTV cameras along the route apparently not record anything?
Between the Ritz and the tunnel are 17 traffic cameras which are filming the road which the car passed down. All 17 were switched off. Not only that, people who were tuning in that night in Paris to the police frequencies have reported that the police frequencies in central Paris were also switched off. Just a coincidence.
And John Morgan makes it absolutely clear from the evidence of the very first medic that got to her that she was scoring 14 out of 15 on the scale that they use. Diana was hardly in any need of treatment. She was talking, she was breathing fine, she was in the back of the car. So the evidence points to her actually being killed in the ambulance as she was taken from the scene to the hospital, because the ambulance took a very long time. It stopped somewhere in between. And so she was actually quite healthy. It's just that the people who were in the ambulance were not there to look after her. They were there to put an end to her.
If in September 1997 this information had gone public, nobody would have spoken anymore about the paparazzi. The only thing the whole world would have focused on would have been Diana's fears, Diana's predictions on how she would be killed by the British establishment.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Thank you for hanging with us. Hanging tough.
All right, so to get into the esoteric aspect of the murder of Princess Diana, if we can call it that, which I really think we can.
Which some do.
I think there's definitely a case to be made. Just like if you can call,
it sounds like
if you can call
definitely
9/11 an inside job, if you can call the assassination of
not even
JFK
an inside job,
a conspiracy
just,
theory.
It was not what it was cited to be.
Right.
Yeah. What does inside job mean?
I just mean a conspiracy.
Yes.
You know, the term conspiracy gets conflated
There was a
with
group of
conspiracy
people
theory.
that wanted this to be done, and it wasn't an accident.
And they also
Correct, what you're saying.
said it was something else that wasn't what it was.
Right.
Completely.
And it builds up their reptilian power energy, and they get to eat the children. Right.
Exactly. That's the whole point, right?
Let's get to that stuff.
Yeah. We want to hear the reptilian baby.
So, I mean, obviously, not taking anything away from the sad tragedy.
I want to get to...
If you got to find a silver lining, it's reptilians eating babies.
That's
I want to meet
silver
one.
lining? Okay.
It's more of
so moving
like
past
a blood
moving past the
letter
clean
lining.
Princess Diana, before she died, she had written a letter to a friend, and she'd also written a letter to her lawyer that her lawyer promised to release upon her death.
Interesting.
The lawyer released it, but knowing how damaging it would be to the royal family, she gave it to the head of police at the time. Head of police reports to the royal family. So the letter essentially said what the letter to her friend said predicted her death.
Okay, let's hear
at
it.
At the hands of the royal family, specifically her husband, with a car accident. She wrote, "I'm sitting here at my desk today in October, longing for someone to hug me and encourage me to keep me strong and hold my head high. This particular phase of my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning, quote, an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury in order to make the path clear for him to marry Tiggy."
Wait, what? This is she actually wrote this letter?
Camilla is nothing but a decoy, so we are all being used by... Camilla, that's who he married after. Camilla is nothing but a decoy, so we are all being used by the man in every sense of the word. So she wrote that.
On Twitter?
That note was sent to Paul Burrell, her butler at the time.
Where did you come up with this information?
This is public knowledge.
This is public knowledge.
Yeah.
How is that not...
I remembered hearing about that like
how
years
is that
ago.
not taken into account in the whole investigation?
It was held back for 3 years.
It's just insane to me.
So the chief of police had access to this letter written to her lawyer, which I don't know if it was the exact letter, but the same idea, that was supposed to be released upon her death, I believe. And he held on to it 3 years after the incident. And
to protect the royal family.
Or he held on to it after the incident, and then after he left as chief of police, the next chief of police held on to it for another 3 years before it was released.
Do they have a similar
because
situation?
Because at the time, if that had come out, the whole public would have been
looking at the royal family as in they are responsible for this.
Yeah.
For
So
what
I
happened.
bet there's something similar in England as there is here. Like it's a matter of national security, so we can't open up this.
Yeah, I love
That's what they
that.
did.
Share this.
I
it
love
happened,
that.
but it's a similar thing over there. Like it's a matter, of royal
they
family
can just say that whenever they
reputation.
want.
This happened.
dude.
This happened in France.
It's a matter of national security.
That exact excuse
This
was
is
given.
nonsense.
That
JFK's got pushed back again.
That exact excuse was given in France, where the accident happened, for releasing certain information about problems with the blood toxicology report for the driver who was supposedly drunk, who turned out not to be.
How is that a matter of national security?
There were problems with the coroner's report. It was a matter of national security. They didn't release
it's
it.
always a matter of national
So
anything they don't want you to know publicly is
well, it
a
also
matter of
admits that there
national
was
security.
something that may have been a malignant involvement. And now let's get...
Exactly.
Let's
Thank
get,
you,
Arnold
Arnold.
just needs to bring it home for us. He needs
know,
to
right?
Give us some little heads up on what's going on.
Don't bullshit me.
I won't, Arnie. I'm not going to bullshit you. I wouldn't bullshit you. So, your skin's too soft. So, okay, so let's get into the esoteric. This is the, I don't want to say
let's
fun.
wrap it up with
I don't
that.
want to say fun because it's crazy and it's occulty, but of course it's not fun because
it's an actual
someone died.
tragedy. It took place in a
was
tunnel, right?
orchestrated in the tunnel, the Pont de l'Alma tunnel.
Yes. You keep saying that name. What is the meaning behind that name? Is there a special meaning?
So I looked this up because there's conspiracy ideas about this means.
Yeah.
David Icke said that it means the bridge to the moon goddess or something like that, which I didn't find that translation. Well, it was Metabunk. Metabunk, this was a ridiculous article. Or no, it wasn't Meta. It was basically some article poo-pooing it saying there's no translation that says this. It just means the bridge of the Alma Bridge.
Right.
Was the English translation. In reality, if you look up the literal translation, it means bridge of the soul. And the idea is, and David Icke expounds on this in a really interesting fashion. Maybe we'll drop in a clip here. Where he talks about the idea that it's a sacrificial point. Supposedly,
the soul can be released.
It's literally the gateway of the soul to the heavens. Supposedly, it was an ancient sacrificial point for the Merovingians.
Yes, and
the
wasn't it tied to a goddess?
The goddess Diana.
Yes, that's the interesting part.
This is on the face of it. This is what a lot of people. There's contention on the internet about this because David Icke says, and in his book, The Biggest Secret, I think, it says that the Merovingians worshipped the Princess Diana, and they used to have sacrifices or battles to the death to sacrifice to the goddess Diana. The goddess Diana.
Right.
And she was murdered at the same spot in the Pont de
That's
l'Alma, which
interesting.
means bridge of the soul to the afterlife. But that's a point of contention because I looked online and people are saying, because I was looking for another source. I didn't just want to quote David Icke.
Right.
And I was looking and I couldn't find any reference to the Merovingians worshiping the goddess Diana. But this is what's interesting. This is in Paris, right? Paris was actually founded in the 3rd century BC by the Gauls. The Gauls were a pagan people known as the Parisi. The pagans, we know, worshipped goddesses of all kinds, right? Then the Romans came in 52 BC. Julius Caesar conquered the Paris area in 52 BC. And then later on, the Franks came in the 5th century. Clovis I established Paris as the capital of the Frankish Empire.
Okay.
So that's when Paris became the capital. And Clovis I, Clovis I was a Merovingian king. The Romans before him worshipped the goddess Diana. And the Gauls before them were pagans who worshipped the goddess. They actually worshipped...
Good research,
The
Jared.
Gauls worshipped Arduina, who was the goddess of the hunt, fertility, also known as the goddess Diana.
Wow.
So it all links back.
That was some good resurreach on your part. You dug all that up on your own.
I don't know if the tunnel... I couldn't find any evidence
it's that
specifically
exact
that the
spot.
tunnel was... But David Icke claims, and I feel like I trust David Icke, a lot of his sources and information. He just seems like a genuine dude.
Does a lot of research.
His source was an anonymous source who gave I think a pen name. In their admission of what happened to Princess Diana, they were saying that the Merovingians actually sacrificed people in that tunnel before it was a tunnel, when it was a chamber, or whatever it was, a warrior
That's so
pit,
freaky.
to the goddess Diana, the moon goddess.
Yeah.
And she's
Her namesake.
Diana. And it's weird, the Merovingian kings are traced to the current British family. Yeah,
It's
who are
just
not
so
tied
weird
together.
when all these major things happen that there's just all these clues that get left over that have so much to do with symbolism.
Right.
I feel like every time I look into these sort of things, it just seems to be like that they almost have to do it in a fashion of
leaving ritual.
Yeah, it's like
leaving
a ritual.
breadcrumbs.
That's the whole thing,
and
right
like
there.
leaving breadcrumbs.
Ritual.
Right?
It's not even leaving breadcrumbs. They're doing it in a ritualistic fashion because of whatever they believe in.
Well,
seems to hold some sort of very significant long-term
It's all
power.
about ritual. We use that today. We move things forward in time, but we're still using Grecian, Roman, even Egyptian iconography and architecture.
Look at our dollar bills.
Look at the Washington D.C., the obelisk. Like we're still using that.
Yeah, we're using our country's
something.
built on things that we have no idea what they mean.
Right. The general people
symbolism.
do not.
Yeah, no idea. Look at all the companies like Apple even.
Right.
Apple is a forbidden fruit that it's been
bite out of the apple.
It's the bite. 99.9% of people would never understand that reference.
That goes back to the idea of the Luciferian agenda, which is it's not just the devil, it's the idea of
whether or not that's
it's the light bringer, it's the Prometheus giving knowledge to the masses, right?
Eve eating the apple.
What's the guy? Michael Tessarian talks about all these symbology references. But like, I mean, Apple I think is just one of the most perfect
seems obvious. Well, they say
but I don't think most people look at that and go like there's a half-bitten apple.
I mean, once it's pointed out, it's
very obvious.
The argument against that is that Turing, the guy who developed the modern computer, like the beginnings of the modern computer, was it Alexander Turing? Alan Turing?
Yeah, Turing, yeah.
He was an apple enthusiast.
He killed himself by biting into a poisoned apple, supposedly.
Cyanide.
He had to self-castrate, or he was castrated because he was a homosexual, which wasn't so supposedly that it's a reference
kind of
to
like
that.
the inventor of the computer. There's a good movie with actually the guy who ran the last
Really?
podcast.
I didn't hear about
So I think that's fascinating. I mean,
but not just the Apple though. I mean, there's like Starbucks. Like
I mean, there's so much
Siren,
There's so
which,
much.
I work
most of the
for
financial
Starbucks.
companies like Fidelity, they're all like pyramids with the all-seeing eye at the top.
For all you Starbucks baristas listening out there, I know there's a few of you because I've talked to you, but yeah, the siren with the tail and the logo, and she's splitting her legs open.
Yeah, the full original logo.
Vagina under there, and also the original logo. There's her nipples. Now they hide her nipples with the hair, but in the '70s that logo had full nipple raging going.
But what is
the siren beckons the sailor with a beautiful song into the dangerous rocks so they can crash.
There's a lot of mythology behind that symbol.
Absolutely,
it's not just like a coffee symbol.
No. It's I mean, Starbucks obviously the name comes from the book Moby Dick. Starbucks is a character in there, Starbuck.
Well, even earlier.
So
than
like
that,
then like it's a mariner type.
All I'm saying is there's power behind the symbol.
The siren
that a lot
itself
of these companies create,
and that's the argument for the siren is that it draws consumers in because it's this figure of with an
and
evil
there's
kind
power
of
in that. Dude.
Power, yeah.
Well, obviously, Starbucks is a massively powerful corporation right now.
Well, this is weird too. I was looking at just go back to the Diana
siren call.
Siren.
Get your coffee at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
and don't tip. The siren doesn't want you to tip.
To come back to the Diana thing.
Siren wants it all for herself.
Let's come back to the Diana thing real quick. Just when you were talking about symbolism, right?
Yeah,
and ritual. An odd thing. So when I was doing this little bit of research into this, the area, the Ponte Le Alma tunnel, the mainstream idea is that it means the Bridge of Alma, which is it was a battle. The British and France war against Crimea, or the Russians for Crimea, or something like that. First blood was drawn at Alma, which is what this bridge symbolizes. And then when I was reading it, I just thought this was just a weird synchronicity. I was reading it, and they were saying, like, at some point in the story, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, the British forces dragooned the Crimean forces, which like outflanked them. Dragoon is a reference to, I wrote this down somewhere, but essentially it means to drag at the point of a gun. But it goes back further, having to do with, well, one description is because the forces had muskets that would breathe.
Yes, dragons.
Like dragons.
Just like the family that Prince Charles is descended from.
Prince Charles is descended.
The
British. Well, it's I think a French or British term, but yeah, going back for the Merovingians and Prince Charles lineage, going back to Dracul, the lineage of the dragon,
which is what Bram Stoker's Dracula is based on. Vlad the Impaler, the family of the Dracul.
So, okay, wrapping it up. There were two clips I sent you. I don't know if you want to play them or not.
I do have them here.
Okay,
which one?
So we talk about the idea of being a brood mare, right? Splicing in fresh genes for the royal bloodline.
Right.
One of the sad examples, and Princess Diana has come out and said that that's how she felt, right? Like there was no love. But at one of the very earliest interviews, there's a clip first being asked about it when being married, and this is the clip of the response.
All the sadness.
Unhappy. And I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on.
And I suppose in love.
Of course. Whatever in love means.
Well, it
put your own interpretation.
Obviously means two very happy people.
Live and love means. So he was known.
that
He was
guy.
known to like obviously sleep around and not give a shit.
Whatever
and she
love
was 18
means.
when
Let her sacrifice her love life.
And
her
there's
life
an interview with her where she's describing what it was like when Prince Charles first started, like invited her to his chateau or his whatever royal happenstance is not a word, and he was all over her. And we can drop this in, but she's saying like, "Oh, I saw you, and it was miserable to watch you walk up after through the funeral. Who his friend died or whatever. It was miserable, and you didn't have your partner with you or whatever." And at that point, he like jumped on her and was all over her, like physically all over her all night, trying to kiss her or whatever. And she was like, "This isn't what people do." And he was like, "Well, it's what I do," you know?
Really?
And it was
That's
like
fucking creepy.
Yeah, and his
mind was just like had nothing to do with the remembrance of the dead, right? It
or
was
whatever.
just like,
whatever it was.
It was all
like,
about his.
It was about
ego gratification at
right.
that point.
Oh, and at one point she stood her ground and like gave him a hard time, and that's
why
what he liked.
Yeah.
And then later, of course, he's
like a vampire,
and that would
dude.
surmise her doom, because at the end it was her fighting the monarchy.
Unwillingness to.
Yeah, her wanting to say like
so creepy.
Well, there's so many interviews with her in her own
I mean,
words.
this is conjecture
Right,
and
it's
a
all
lot of anecdotal evidence.
But I mean, some of that.
it is
As far as the death, but not her position.
Yeah, her testimony
against the monarchy and against the way it was.
Well,
and
just
how
listen to that clip of where he's like, "Oh, whatever love me."
He's fucking Vlad the Impaler,
and
dude.
it sounds like
doesn't he have bloodlines to Vlad
Directly.
the?
And he brags about it.
Talking about crazy,
that.
dude.
So I do have a bit of a
he
stake
sounds
in the matter.
exactly like what Dracula would sound like.
No.
And he's literally.
Well, what's that? And that clip sounds like in his tone, it just sounds like she's just a commoner beneath me, and like, oh, whatever love means.
Right. So in that
Take you as
in that
mine,
supposed
to him, it's nothing.
In that supposed like secret society behind the scenes occult circle, they brought her into like the lizard people room, and we're like, hey, we're lizards. They told her like, you are just a broodmare, and you will have no further importance, and you have to agree to this because you have no other option. That's supposedly according to like her.
I just wonder
her
what
friends
happens.
and
What's going on with Meghan Markle?
Yeah, what is she in
like,
for?
What the fuck? I thought
Kate?
about that. Like when I saw her getting married. Well,
but there's a good point.
No,
Was it
you're right.
Kate that just had the baby?
But she has a baby.
Yeah, but did you see her walk out with the baby?
Mm-mm.
Does she have a tail?
She wore the identical dress worn in Rosemary's Baby.
Ceremony, sacrifice.
The sacrificial baby, and by who was the
We'll
guy?
see how it all plays out.
But
It'll be interesting.
Who was the guy that did Rosemary's Baby?
Oh, wasn't it somebody's dad?
No, it was the wife of the actress murdered Tate.
Oh,
Sharon Tate. It was his
Charles Manson
murder.
Yeah, but her husband was the director of Rosemary's Baby. He's
or father? Was it
husband? Older husband who was known to like.
Was he into occult stuff?
Philanderer and whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, he was a philanderer or whatever, but he was a rapist. He was wanted.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't until like it was shortly before the Me Too movement where he was welcomed like back in to do Roman Polanski.
Oh, now he's in jail,
a pedophile
right?
too,
Yeah,
right?
he
now
did,
he's been
He
arrested.
did Rosemary's Baby. Sharon Tate was the actress who wore this gown that was like, here's my sacrificial.
Here's my sacrifice. Charles Manson.
Here's my sacrificial baby to be the Antichrist.
Right, and then she's killed by Charles
What does
Manson.
Kate come out wearing? Rosemary's identical dress. This is not a dress you pick up at any store. This is like a creepy identical. No one would wear this now. With the same
Handmade.
weird like thing around the neck. Look it up. Rosemary's Baby.
God,
Sharon
dude,
Tate.
there's just so much infinite nonsense.
Kate Middleton.
Crazy.
It's just a bizarre connection. And is her child going to be the Antichrist? Is it going to be sacrificed?
No,
what it's
probably
gonna
not,
be,
but it may play
she
a
might
role.
be a lizard.
Well, it could be.
Here's the thing, though. Like, we talk
This
about
is all true.
We talk
This is
about
all fact and true.
But we do talk about all this shit, like, and we get deep into it, and we've seen so much as far as like coincidences and all this. It's just like, but there's so much. Like it's just
not
it's
normal.
hard to ignore.
It's
after
not
a
normal.
while.
Well, yeah, and like at the end of the day,
it makes me
we
start
can
to think that we, like, for sure, are somehow controlled by some overarching structure that we don't fully understand.
Well, and I don't think that's far-fetched. I think even the most like cynical, skeptical people who are listening to this, on some level of their mind, they believe that there are people out there pulling the strings or attempting to control.
Or forces.
Like, I mean,
let alone
that's
people.
historical. You can, forces people.
Well, if you believe the David Icke mindset, it's not necessarily people, but it's the forces pulling the people, like even the other dimensional entities
the
that are
puppets,
controlling them.
They're puppets, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know this is going to put me on a limb a little bit, but I definitely think that there are forces that we don't see and understand.
We live in a world where we know we only see. I know. This is that's our limb. We live on that limb.
I'm talking about the limb of me putting out this into the world of
the mainstream.
My life, putting this out into the world, saying that I for sure think that there are
that goes back
things
to
that we don't understand in this world.
Like to tie it back in before we wrap it up, like I didn't touch on that at all, but like we go back into like the dreams and visions things, like so much of that is, and like some of the things I didn't talk about for people who had dreams that led to certain ideas, it almost seems like there is an outside force that's giving these ideas because they want they want the energy. Well, not the energy necessarily. Well, but they want to carve the direction of humanity.
They want to influence what's happening.
That's what it's a game. Yeah. Whether it's for good or ill.
And I think there's both good and ill.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a battle happening right now that we don't fully understand.
Well, and there is a vampirism that's happening. Whether you believe in vampires or not vampire, whether you believe in that stuff, there is an energetic vampirism that's happening all the time.
Right. Look at the news, dude. There is an energy suck happening.
That's why I don't watch it.
You want to talk about what we know in science, like the idea that like we can't see X-rays, we can't see microwaves. There's dimensions around us we can't see. And yet our energy permeates dimensions, right? This is like a scientific idea. So
we know we have energy fields around us that we exude.
We eat food for energy. If we were giving off energy,
what are
the chances that there's something feeding off that energy, and maybe some feed off of a positive energy, some feed off of a dark.
Yeah.
And if they come to terrify you,
we're at the top of the food chain too.
And that, my friends.
If you want to go to the Donald Marshall story and you want to go into that idea of like terrifying people and feeding off the adrenochrome and the fear of people, energy vampires.
And that, my friends, will tie into the next episode. If you guys are good with this topic, next episode,
Shadow People.
That's a good one.
Haunting, because that will tie directly into the feeding off of the dark energy.
Magicians are demons.
Good.
So that was a good run.
That was a good ending.
It was a good run.
So first of all, let's just make sure we want to say that disclaimer, not supporting any of what we're saying right now.
I think people listening know.
We support these all as possibilities.
This is conjecture.
It's all conjecture.
It's like the beginning of the In Search of that awesome
It is crazy though. There's
series.
a lot of highly bizarre, coincidental things that have happened in this world that we've all looked into deeply, and I think the reason we do this podcast is because we're all fascinated by
it's mystery.
We're compelled because people won't talk about it, especially in the mainstream that everyone watches.
And we're sick of the benign vanillaness that goes on in the world. And we're just like, there's more to life.
It's that benign vanillaness that doesn't allow people to look at deeper possibilities of conspiracy when it comes to things that have come out later to be obvious conspiracies.
Right,
like
exactly.
The sinking of the Lusitania, the Gulf of Tonkin, JFK assassination leading up to 9/11, whether you believe it or not. There are a lot of holes that we just won't, even in, if you watch Unlawful Killing, the story of Princess Diana and her assassination or murder.
Notes.
If you check that out and you watch that, there's transcripts of the press corps during the trial or the commission essentially deciding what happened with the death, and they're all just saying, there are people at home believing in these wild conspiracy theories. They've made up their mind before they hear the evidence. They've made up their mind, and then they're going to write to the masses what they weren't even paying attention. And there's a guy who was a mole in the press corps talking about what he was hearing these people talk about, and not even understanding the evidence that was given to them. And they just wrote a story. That's why it came out paparazzi. Anyways, that's all I'll say.
No, you're right. And for those people, like, I'm not interested in those people because they're obviously...
At least listen to both sides. We know the mainstream. Why don't you just give an open mind to the alternative ideas that have evidence behind them?
Because our ideas are dangerous on some level because they represent...
They're disturbing.
They're
represent a reality that's scary.
And they also represent, light on the darkness, there's a lot of
flashlight into the cave.
It's scary to look.
It is. It's terrifying for people that have never really looked into how long have we been looking into conspiracy theories?
Right. Our psyche was shattered with zeitgeist.
What was that? 15 years ago
or something?
Well, and before that, I was talking to Jim about this the other day. Like before conspiracy theories, how long have we been looking into like paranormal, the mysteries of life?
We were
since we were in fourth grade.
We were built to be paranormal warriors.
Anyways,
that's
a clip. Good episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Not next week, but the following week, hopefully, episode 7 will be coming out.
Absolutely,
Shadow People, whatever else we decide to talk about. hope you enjoyed this week's
call
episode.
Write in. Go to our
please,
go to
interact with
Go to
us.
beliefhole.com. Leave us a voice message.
so
Tell us how retarded we are. Tell us how fascinating this is, or what you're interested in.
We're in the beginning stages. We can ask our fan. When we have we know people listen to it at this point.
Yeah,
we don't have a huge fan base.
It's good to have some actual.
But we know, honestly, from the stats, there are people that are very much enjoying the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very encouraging.
And
so thank you guys for listening.
This is an interactive show. We care about what people want to hear. So
absolutely,
talk to us. Let us know where you think we're right, where you think we're wrong, and what you want to hear about.
And again, going back to next week's episode, if you guys have a creepy story out there, whether it's
night paralysis,
shadow people, just a nightmare in general,
scary
visions
magicians.
of ghosts, some sort of strange encounter. It doesn't have to be related to the next episode. Just call in, leave us an interesting story.
Don't be shy.
Or a topic you want to hear us talk about.
We love you.
Hi. Say hi.
It's so lonely out here.
All right, people of the earth.
Of the plane. Good evening.
We bless you and
keep you.
As the Nords say, God kveld.
Good night.
Good night.